Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha Massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing. If both deans said it was true, then it had to be true. But this meant that while their team was still playing in the mud back at the temporary stadium in the Martial Arts Academy, Wang Zan had already been out fighting real battles. And winning. Chen Mengshu muttered, her eyes filled with a strange light, junior brother Wang Zan. He's become this strong already? Liu Zheng and Del Long exchanged a glance, nodded, and continued, so, all of you need to work harder. He's likely on the verge of becoming a martial master, while you are still low-rank warriors. If this gap continues to widen, you might never catch up in this lifetime. He caused quite a stir this time, and the 4 great academies paid a hefty price to bail him out. That's why they've requested him as an exchange student. However, we can arrange for some mentors to help you all narrow the gap. Of course, none of this is to be spoken of outside. Anyone who lets this slip will be expelled, no exceptions. LV Zinglong said with a casual laugh, hoping they would be motivated to push themselves harder. Even if they couldn't win the federal martial arts competition, they should at least improve somewhat and feel a bit of pressure. However, looking at their reactions, apart from the two simpletons, Chen Mengshu and Huang Pufeng, Song Dongming and Sun Kelin merely exchanged a glance and had already deduced most of the truth. Wang Zan caused too big a stir. The 4 great academies wouldn't normally interfere in the affairs of a smaller institution like Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy. The only explanation is that our dean went to them, hat in hand, and offered up Wang Zan in exchange for their help. It's beneficial for Wang Zan, true, but it also means our dean admits he lacks the capability to protect him and doesn't want to drag him down. An inexplicable sense of frustration and helplessness washed over them, especially Song Dongming, the team's main pillar. Wang Zan should have been the prize talent of Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy, the driving force leading us forward. Yet, in the end, because we are too weak, because we lack the ability to protect our own junior, our own student, we have to just hand him over. They call it an exchange, but it's clear that from now on, Wang Zan will likely only have a nominal connection to Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy. Our academy is too small, the competition too fierce. For them to even accept Wang Zan is already giving us immense face. We are too weak. The news that Wang Zan was being given away by Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy as an exchange student didn't spread widely. However, Qin Ying had noticed the way Yanjing Martial Arts Academy and Royal Martial Arts Academy acted as if they were drawing a clear line in the sand, staying out of each other's affairs, after the 4 great academies of the Federation made their move. Previously, despite constant internal strife and conflicts in private, the 4 great academies of the Federation had always presented a united front, advancing and retreating as one. This could only mean that rifts had appeared among the 4 great academies, with internal situations emerging that were beyond the Federation's regulation and control. Furthermore, Wang Zan was very likely the catalyst. Moreover, she didn't believe Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy could have secured Yanjing Martial Arts Academy's intervention without paying a significant price. Thus, in the early morning, having woken at some unknown hour, she lay quietly on the bed, chin propped in her hands, watching the sleeping Wang Zan and pondering these developments. Rifts among the 4 great academies could be both good and bad. The Federation has grown too complacent, and the martial arts world is like a pool of stagnant water. Although the Federation has implemented many reforms, they're mostly superficial, addressing symptoms rather than the root cause, and haven't had much real effect. These rifts mean competition will intensify, and their mutual opposition will become more pronounced. In such an environment, smaller martial arts academies like Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy will have no ground to stand on their own, they'll only survive by clinging to the powerful. What were Yanjing Martial Arts Academy's conditions for intervening? Wang Zan is already a student of Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy. Transferring his registration would be too costly, and it would also be improper and lack justification, making it look like the 4 great academies were bullying a federal martial arts academy. So, could it be an exchange program? It had to be said, when Qin Ying's mind wasn't addled, or when Wang Zan wasn't clouding her judgment, she was quite sharp. It didn't take her long to figure out Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy's likely arrangements for Wang Zan. Even for exchange students, there are many kinds. This was especially true for someone like Wang Zan, who, while not widely known across the Federation, was quite famous among his peers. Once he became an exchange student, he would inevitably be branded with the mark of the host academy. It wouldn't take much to establish which camp he belonged to. "What are you thinking about?" Wang Zan woke in a daze. As his eyes opened, a gleam of light flashed, and he saw Qin Ying right beside him. "What exactly is our relationship?" Wang Zan wondered. "Are we secret lovers? Or am I keeping her as a hidden treasure?" But he had to admit, waking up to find such an enchanting beauty quietly beside him gave him a surreal, peaceful feeling, as if time itself had paused for this perfect moment. "Thinking of you," Qin Ying began, her voice tinged with a playful grievance that made Wang Zan's heart skip a beat. "And you? Were you thinking of me?" Who knew that Qin Ying would start teasing him so plaintively? It made Wang Zan's heart flutter, and he didn't know how to respond. "Heavens, this is too much. Haven't I been right beside you since last night? Even though I was paralyzed, my hand has been under you for so long, it's definitely numb, right?" Seeing Wang Zan's dazed look, Qin Ying couldn't help but flash a winsome smile, adding another layer to her beauty. "Just teasing you. Look at that silly face." "Oh, hee hee. Hee hee." Wang Zan let out a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. Just smile, smile and the world feels right." The two didn't banter for long before Qin Ying suddenly remembered something. "Oh, right. I made breakfast. Do you like kimchi with egg and black rice? I'll bring it over for you to try." With that, she hopped out of bed like a giddy young girl in love, her ample assets bouncing with her movements, prompting Wang Zan to murmur to himself. "So white, so big. Ahem, so big and white. Bah, what am I thinking? Didn't I see them yesterday? They didn't seem this prominent." He hadn't recalled it clearly. Yesterday, paralyzed like a log, his mind had been full of Yao Yao, he wouldn't have dared let his eyes wander. But still. "Wait, don't bring it over. I'll come get it." Wang Zan, forgetting his paralysis and feeling it was improper for Qin Ying to wait on him like this, tried to stand up. The next moment, he froze. "Wasn't I paralyzed? Weren't there supposed to be complications? What's going on?" He quickly assessed his condition. Though his body was covered in scars, and his essence energy and mental energy felt somewhat depleted, the paralysis and unbearable pain from the complications had vanished completely. Just then, Qin Ying returned with a bowl of kanji. Seeing Wang Zan standing there in nothing but his boxer shorts, she blushed. But she quickly recovered, hastily setting aside the dubious concoction of kanji. Her face lit up with surprise and joy as she looked at Wang Zan, reaching out to pinch and prod him all over. You're okay now?" The complications from the blood essence spill were no joke. Qin Ying knew very well that they were enough to drive a normal person mad, or even destroy their martial arts foundation. So, seeing Wang Zan completely recovered, an irrepressible excitement showed on her face. "It seems you've completely absorbed the bloodline talent from the blood essence pill, so you're immune to the complications. Last night was just because the medicine's effect was too potent, and your body couldn't handle it all at once." Wang Zan looked at Qin Ying, who was still checking him all over, and felt her genuine joy. A smile spread across his face as he slowly pulled her into an embrace, inhaling her orchid-like fragrance, and said softly, "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I might have really died yesterday." He didn't know everything that had happened, but the scar on Qin Ying's forehead was still there, the white gauze strikingly visible. Qin Ying trembled slightly in his arms. Feeling the masculine aura emanating from Wang Zan, she felt somewhat intoxicated and gazed at him adoringly as she said, "As long as you're all right, I'm all right. Besides, after everything, we're like this now. You won't abandon me, will you?" Chapter 151, Departure and Return. There was a touch of trepidation on her face, but Wang Zan felt her sincerity. Even though he knew she was the same woman with a troubled mind, he would be a fool to reject such a beauty standing before him. For a moment, the air crackled with romance, sealed with a deep kiss. Wang Zan couldn't come up with a suitable way to handle his relationship with Qin Ying, but after all, he was just a young man. What young man isn't impulsive? He'd just take things as they come. After a long while, the two finally separated, Qin Ying's face flushed, nearly breathless. Then, as she was about to kneel, Wang Zan immediately shook his head and pulled her up, causing Qin Ying's face to turn pale. Don't you like it? Or do you despise me? I've told you before, I have already separated you and Qin in my heart." Separating them in her heart didn't mean Qin Ying could let go. She was already mentally disoriented, a pitiful woman. Wang Zan's expression hardened. "It's not about that. We have plenty of time, we should take things slow. Besides, I'm not really into that kind of thing. I still want to focus on getting stronger." Qin Ying's face turned cold, her eyes clouded as she gritted her teeth. You just hate me and despise me. What's wrong with this? Even I, a woman, don't mind, and it won't stop you from getting stronger. By stopping me, you're saying you don't like me, you bastard. Wang Zan's head fell twice its normal size. I said I don't. Yes, you do. I don't. Yes, you do. Alright, I really don't. Come on then. Whatever you want to do, I'll put up with it, alright? Wang Zan compromised. He must be crazy too, trying to reason with this mad woman. Only then did Qin Ying's tears turn into laughter. Although she had settled on Wang Zan, she also carried guilt towards Qin Yuan, making her extremely sensitive and easily triggered. Only after Wang Zan agreed did she calm down somewhat. But her actions carried an unconscious hint of retaliation. Hiss. Teeth. Only after it was over did Qin Ying look at Wang Zan, her face full of pride. She hummed a little before changing the subject and saying to Wang Zan, "Did you know about Yanjing Martial Arts Academy getting involved last night?" "Yeah, I felt it. I forgot to tell you, ever since you taught me the general outline of the Supreme Pure Thunder, my mental energy can now extend for several kilometers." Qin Ying was dumbstruck. How could that be possible? That was just a fragment, not the complete scripture. Even if Wang Zan possessed the Five Thunder Deity Refinement Method, a branch technique of the Supreme Clear Thunder Summary, it couldn't be this outrageous. He was just a warrior. To achieve a range of several kilometers, one would need to be at least a martial king. Have you had other fortuitous encounters? A perception range of several kilometers is outrageous. If the original organization knew about your situation, they would immediately take you away for dissection, unless it's a bloodline talent. Otherwise, no one could be this exceptional. Wang Zan's heart tensed, but he kept his expression neutral as he said, "I don't know either, but my mental energy has been growing rapidly recently. Who knows, it might be due to a bloodline talent." So Qin Ying didn't even know the general outline of the Supreme Pure Thunder was this powerful? It seems my guess was a bit off. Could it really be a bloodline talent? Besides the known bloodline talent from Wang Yadao, do I have other bloodline talents? Qin Ying sighed in relief. That's also possible. But then she said seriously, "You absolutely must not let others know the range of your mental energy detection. Even if they find out, attribute it to a bloodline talent. Anyway, no one in the Federation currently understands the inheritance methods of bloodline talents, nor their capabilities. But, have you considered what price Chu State Military Academy will pay for Yanjing Martial Arts Academy stepping in to help you last night?" Hearing this, Wang Zan also fell deep in thought. Although Yanjing Martial Arts Academy has been good to me, their direct intervention is indeed a bit unusual. I'm not sure, but I guess it won't be a light price. Indeed, it won't be light. Qin Ying gazed at Wang Zan with a somber expression. If I'm not mistaken, Chu State Military Academy will probably send you as an exchange student to one of the Federation's four greats. Of course, the Royal Martial Arts Academy isn't one of them. Wang Zan's gaze sharpened. It seems the price is indeed worth it. But what does this mean for me? I think your situation as an exchange student will be completely different from those in the past. It's even possible that Chu State Military Academy will completely wash their hands of you. Qin Ying glanced at Wang Zan, wanting to gauge his reaction. However, after some contemplation, Wang Zan showed no signs of anger or despondency. "Can you handle that?" Qin Ying asked softly. Wang Zan shook his head. "This isn't something I can decide. Although I know that given enough time and resources, I won't be inferior to anyone. But at their realm, I truly have no power to resist. Whatever they decide, I can only comply." Wang Zan was no longer the Wang Zan he once was. Though he felt helpless, frustrated, and also angry that Chu State Military Academy would abandon him so readily, in the end, it was because he himself was too weak, and Chu State Military Academy was too weak. The tallest tree in the forest will be toppled by the wind. This law is an ironclad rule, no matter where one is. A touch more joy appeared on Qin Ying's face, along with a hint of admiration as refreshing as a spring breeze. Qin Yuan had been a reckless fool, so even though her memories of him were deep, she truly didn't like that aspect of him. Now, Wang Zan has leaped from the realm of a fool to one where he could be a pawn in the schemes of those wily old foxes. This transformation is very good, it will allow him to survive longer. So, do you think this is a bad thing? As an exchange student, if you aren't accepted, you won't receive any resources or guidance. Perhaps your life will stagnate there. Wang Zan let out a chuckle. You don't need to test me. If I really become an exchange student, I'll be fine. Whoever feeds me is my mother, right? I didn't understand this before, but I'm gradually starting to. If I remain this weak, I'll always be dependent on others, no matter what I do. That being the case, even if I become an exchange student, as long as there's a chance to become stronger, I'll definitely have a say in my future. Bending the knee is nothing, who doesn't know how to do that? Just wait until I have power. Then we'll see who's begging whom. The recent life and death battles had made Wang Zan understand many things, and this was one of them. If he were strong enough, all that nonsense from the original organization, the great families, the major factions, even the federations for greats, they could all step aside. One king to rule them all, supreme and unchallenged. Those who refuse to submit will be dealt with. Since he couldn't do that yet, he should be more low-key and, if worst came to worst, develop stealthily. Change didn't happen overnight. Ever since the Eastern battlefield, he had gradually come to understand this. Relying on power to bully others wasn't a true skill. Those who could fight head-on but also scheme from the shadows were the real masters. No one knew that this war in the E7 district was merely a probe by Wang Zan. The likes of Li Shiji, those grandmasters, they were all just chips he used to test the reactions of the major powers. Without strong backing, one ultimately cannot stand alone. Qin Ying's expression grew more profound. Moreover, deep down, she was truly starting to become captivated by Wang Zan. This is what a man should truly do, not act like a fool, recklessly rushing to the battlefield only to die. But Qin Yuan? For some reason, she felt a pang of heartache. Wang Zan left. He departed as soon as he said he would, and Qin Ying didn't try to keep him. She simply kissed him again for a long time. Remember, even if you offend those big shots, you cannot offend them openly. If you have to offend them, do it behind their backs, offend them severely, and on the surface, ensure no one can guess it was you. If you really become an exchange student and enter the corps of the Four Greats, seize the opportunity to snatch the title of the Death Expeditionary Force. That is the freest and most dangerous part of the Star War battlefield, but also the most rewarding. The true geniuses among the Federation's Four Greats are, without exception, members of it. This is their foundation in the military department. Don't worry about me, I said I don't want official status, and I mean it. But don't be afraid of implicating me either. Whatever the difficulty, if you need to, contact me anytime. I have to go too. I'll miss you. These were Qin Ying's parting words to Wang Zan, and they completely occupied a piece of his heart, a heart she had already managed to soften. Even though I don't know exactly what our relationship is, I definitely won't disappoint you. Wang Zan thought, his gaze complicated. Much of the information Qin Ying had revealed was incredibly useful. So useful that, while it concerned matters seemingly far beyond his current reach, it could genuinely become part of his foundation, allowing him to advance rapidly. With a woman like this, what more could a man ask for? But what about Yao Yao? Wang Zan mused, feeling both troubled and happy. He was finally experiencing what it felt like to have a foot in two boats. And he hadn't even found his balance on one before the other woman had practically claimed him. What was he to make of this? But for now, I need to figure out what kind of bloodline talent I've absorbed. Asking Li Chengyuan is out of the question. Although they treat me well, they definitely don't have good intentions. Little did he know that by the time he returned to the temporary stadium and appeared before LV Zhenglong and Liu Zhang, a truth concerning a hero of the Federation had begun to roar and seethe across the internet. It tore away the last hazy veil, exposing every detail of Wang Zan's past to the entire Federation. It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. Liu Zheng's expression was complex, yet there was a rare look of gratification on his face. No matter what path he takes in the future, Wang Zan will always be a student from Chu State Military Academy, always a son of the Chu State land. Wang Zan grinned, looking at the people with their various expressions, and joked, that's for sure. Let me tell you, Director, I've become much stronger while I was away. Do you know? This time, I've truly made my mark. Don't look down on me just because I'm only a level 8 warrior now. Let me tell you, I wouldn't even flinch if I faced a Grandmaster. You know Grandmasters, right? Level 9, quasi-Grandmasters, the kind that can crush you with one slap? Me, Wang Zan, with my own 2 fists and a knife, plus a lean against the mountain, took him down. Beat him until his face was black and blue, until he didn't dare breathe. It felt great, ha 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 ha. Watching Wang Zan constantly showing off and shouting eccentrically, everyone could only manage a wry smile. Seeing him act like this, Liu Zheng and LV Zhenglong felt a pang of bitterness in their hearts. Wang Zan must have already learned the truth behind everything. He was clowning around like this merely to try and lighten the mood for everyone from Chu State Military Academy. Chapter 152, The Beginning of God Creation. So, after he caught up with his teammates, the 2 vice principals came looking for him directly. Yes, everyone knew. Though only a few days had passed since they had last seen each other, everything had changed. Wang Zan was destined to grow distant from them, yet future calamities would ensure their connection remained. Wang Zan looked at the 2 vice principals and said solemnly, Deans, rest assured, I will give you a proper accounting regarding Zhuya and Shuking. I am, after all, the captain of the Chu State Military Martial Academy team. I've had it with them for a long time. Now is the perfect time. Just watch me crush these little cockroaches. Liu Zheng and Delvi Zhenglong couldn't manage a smile. Their expressions turned serious as they whispered, Wang Zan, you kid, do you have any idea what price the Martial Arts Academy has paid to rescue you? If the Big Four hadn't intervened. And don't forget, the Zhu family had already mobilized a Grandmaster. Wang Zan was doomed. Once other factions saw a Grandmaster take action, they would have all piled on, eager to let this rising prodigy fall prematurely, reduced to a pile of dry bones. Once reduced to dry bones, it would only prove his fate wasn't strong enough. And if his fate wasn't strong enough, he wasn't a genius of the Federation. His death would be meaningless. Wang Zan fell silent for a moment, then nodded. I have some suspicions, but I'm not certain. Deans, you don't need to feel too much pressure. I, Wang Zan, take responsibility for my own actions. This matter was my responsibility to begin with, and I won't shirk it. If Wang Zan hadn't been so reckless and attention-grabbing, if he hadn't been so vindictive and heedless of the consequences, the Chu State Military Martial Academy wouldn't have taken such an enormous risk for him. That academy wasn't just Wang Zan's, it belonged to all of Chu State. It represented the strength of all Chu State's people, a strength built layer by layer through the flesh and blood of their forebears who had surged forward wave after wave in sacrifice. Therefore, Wang Zan was prepared to accept it calmly. Flies don't target an uncracked egg. What Wang Zan needed to do was to turn himself into an egg so volatile that if they dared to bite it again, they might find themselves poisoned or blown to smithereens. Liu Zhen nodded. This truly is a good student. At least he's more willing to take responsibility than most, and courageous enough to bear it. He then spoke candidly, holding nothing back. This time, for the Big Four to intervene, the suggestion from your military mentor was for the dean to contact them and arrange for you to become an exchange student with flexible enrollment status. From then on, while you wouldn't completely sever ties with Chu State Military Martial Academy, you'd primarily carry the label of the Big Four. You'd no longer be considered direct lineage of Chu State Military Martial Academy, and it's uncertain if you'd become direct lineage for the Big Four either. Unless you join the military department. Chu State Military Martial Academy, in turn, will receive donations and assistance from the Big Four, helping it to continuously improve its ranking among the federal martial arts academies. Wang Zan understood. This affair definitely involves that old scoundrel Li Chengyuan from the military department, constantly scheming to force me into joining, Wang Zan thought, a cold sneer forming internally. I can join the military department, but are you really so sure I'll stand on your side? Besides, good things are rarely pushed so aggressively. Li Chengyuan's haste only proved he had significant designs on me, and his connection to Wang Yudao was likely more than just a matter of inherited legacy. And then there's Minayu. She's clearly one of Li Chengyuan's hounds. The moment I decided to defy Li Chengyuan's will, it was destined that Minayu and I would have to make a clean break, we'd become irreconcilable. Of course, this exchange student arrangement offered uncertain advantages for Wang Zan but tangible benefits for the Chu State Military Martial Academy. It was just that Wang Zan himself would be the price. 3 people were huddled in a room, discussing something unknown. Meanwhile, the online world had completely erupted, to the extent that even the Chu State Military Martial Academy team belatedly discovered Wang Zan's monumental achievements through the internet. Wang Zan, male, 18 years old, first-year student at Chu State Military Martial Academy, Level 3 warrior. Federation Calendar 2256, November 10th, in the Chu State Wilderness, detected signs of activity from an evil source organization gene research base. This led to the exposure of said base, which was then besieged and annihilated by a coalition of forces including the Chu State Military Martial Academy, various Chu State departments, and the military department. Federation Calendar 2257, February 23, on the Oceania Death Battlefield, unexpectedly received an urgent military directive. Accepting the mission under perilous conditions, he fought his way through a relentless pursuit and encirclement by the evil source organization, ultimately making a desperate escape. Following a fortuitous encounter, he temporarily broke through to the martial general realm. With a single fatal one-slash, he slew 13 henchmen of the evil source organization, one of their core combatants, and over 20 general-level beasts on the death battlefield. Subsequently, after much maneuvering and despite suffering grievous injuries that led to paralysis, he finally reached the eastern battlefield. He successfully delivered the mission objective, earning distinguished military merit for the Federation. Federation Calendar 2257, February 28, on the eastern battlefield within the Oceania Death Battlefield, He was targeted for assassination by a henchman of the Evil Source Organization. A former lieutenant rank warrior of the Eastern Battlefield and a Federation defector, since lawfully executed by the Federation. Despite this, he launched a desperate counterattack from an impossible situation. Following the clues, he subsequently uncovered the full extent of the Evil Source Organization's infiltration at the Eastern Battlefield, bringing the perpetrators to justice and delivering them to the Federation. He demonstrated profound righteousness and never sought credit for his actions. Federation Calendar 2257, March 4th, erupted into action in Jing State C7 District. Employing special methods, he forcefully slew 2 Grandmaster-level accomplices of the Evil Source Organization and intimidated over a dozen other Grandmaster-level experts from the organization, preventing any of them from causing further trouble, thereby single-handedly quelling the Jing State crisis. Finally, only a single line of text remained, brilliant and dazzling, yet veiled in a bloody enigma, starkly reminding people of Wang Zan's identity: youth of Chu State, hero of the Federation. Legend of justice, bane of darkness. Peerless saber master, dashing youth. Wang Zan, the hope of the Federation. This compilation might have seemed crudely put together. But when paired with a series of thrilling video clips, the impact was so profound that it sent shivers down everyone's spines and filled them with a shared sense of honor. There were scenes depicting the countless infamous deeds of the Evil Source Organization. There was Wang Zan on the death battlefield, an invincible figure wreathed in a murderous aura, fearlessly cutting down foes. There was the tragic side of Wang Zan on the Eastern Battlefield, paralyzed and ambushed, being knocked out of a building by an assassin, falling helplessly. There was Wang Zan in the dark of night in Jing State, suppressing experts who ambushed travelers, and forcefully eliminating grandmasters who had invaded residences and disturbed the peace. Each scene was enough to make one's heart pound and limbs turn cold with terror. A mere warrior, yet capable of slaying a grandmaster. How extraordinary must one's talent be to achieve such a feat? Though many found it hard to believe, the evidence presented, corroborated by confirmations from their own powerful friends or elders, left them with complex emotions. If creatures like beasts exist in this world that can enhance physical constitution, then naturally, there must also be divine medicines capable of making someone incredibly powerful in an instant. Otherwise, how could there be beasts that reach the martial general or even the martial king realm from birth? To achieve something like that, one needs at least exceptional talent, built upon a solid foundation. Then, the worst case price might be like this kid here. Paralyzed and bedridden. Perhaps temporarily, perhaps for a lifetime. Ultimately, it still comes down to talent. A genius capable of directly withstanding martial general level power. What did that even signify? If the videos hadn't also mentioned that Wang Zan's parents were ordinary people, many would have suspected his parents were actually powerful beasts. It was so outrageous, almost no one was willing to believe it. Yet, for those at the Chu State Military Martial Academy or others familiar with him, Wang Zan's deeds inspired nothing but awe. Boundless awe. They were convinced this was the gulf between a genius and an ordinary person. Otherwise, how could the Wang Zan who was so unremarkable in his 3rd year of high school suddenly skyrocket to prominence? This is a genius. This is what a true genius looks like. Is the Federation's top-ranked genius truly superior to Wang Zan? Even if they felt that supposed top genius wasn't fit to hold a candle to Wang Zan, surely he couldn't be better than Wang Zan. Otherwise, such a person wouldn't be human. Wang Zan himself likely had no idea he was teetering on the very edge of what it meant to be human. Challenging opponents 3 levels above oneself? For a genius, that's manageable. But 4 or 5 levels? That's demonic, something beyond a mere prodigy. Of course, whether those levels referred to minor stages or major realms was largely irrelevant to the people of the Federation. As long as it was a human achieving it, that was enough. If ordinary people reacted this way, what about those individuals who had truly clawed their way up from the very bottom of Federation society? So, there really are geniuses like me in this world. Spanning 3 major realms. 3 major realms. What damn Federation, what trash grandmasters. Even though I'm just an ordinary person, with my mental storm alone, I can utterly destroy you. In a dilapidated, crumbling building somewhere, a genuinely short and chubby young man sobbed silently, tears streaming down his cheeks. He had hidden himself away for so long, enduring so much bitterness. To avoid being captured and dissected by the Federation or the original organization, he, an ordinary person, had already experienced countless things no ordinary person should ever have to face. For instance, an ordinary person killing a martial artist, an ordinary person using a mental storm to kill martial masters, or using his vast mental energy to scurry and hide like a rat. After a long while, he decided. Geniuses should rally around someone like Wang Zan. The chubby young man had done his own research. Wang Zan was genuinely from an ordinary background. His mother was an ordinary person, his father too. Although his sister wasn't ordinary, Wang Zan himself had been an ordinary person before his third year of high school. This means Wang Zan and I, both being geniuses, have common ground. He would accept someone like me. I want to find him, I want to find him, I must find him. The chubby young man muttered to himself. Even though only instant noodles kept him company in his squalid surroundings, Wang Zan seemed like a guiding light. And it wasn't just the chubby young man. There was one who could see for 3,000 miles, another whose ears could hear across an entire city, one whose strength could slay a Grandmaster realm expert, another whose gaze could mesmerize even martial masters. And countless other such extraordinary individuals. They were all drawn to Wang Zan, this figure who shared so many commonalities with them. He swiftly became their guiding beacon, someone they were destined to rally around with fervent passion. Wang Zan. Wang Zan. Wang Zan. His name was whispered everywhere. They needed a leader, they needed a true god. Undoubtedly, a genius like Wang Zan. Who, despite his low realm, could win every battle, suffer grievous wounds yet never die. Was precisely the kind of figure they should pledge allegiance to. Federation histories would later call this the God-making movement. The Hidden Mastermind, Li Chengyuan. Chapter 153, Waves Temporary Stadium, Chu State Military Martial Academy Base. Is this really Wang Zan? Song Dongming murmured. He still remembered the first time he saw Wang Zan, it was during the Academy ranking tournament. Wang Zan might not make a move, but once he did, it was a sweep across the board. Until shortly after he encountered Huang Pufeng, he was unfortunately defeated by a senior in his sophomore year. He had never crossed paths with Song Dongming. Afterward, the three of them fortuitously formed a closer bond, frequently venturing into the wilderness. Wang Zan's audacity, relentless skill securing, and his wit and caution left a deep impression on both of them. But those were martial generals. All 13 of them were martial generals, only a step away from the Grandmaster realm on their martial arts path. Who knew how many resources they had consumed or how many beasts they had slaughtered to reach that stage? They weren't like cabbages, just standing there waiting to be chopped. So terrifying. Huang Pufeng felt goosebumps all over. He had indeed seen Wang Zan ruthlessly kill enemies, even risking his life for a finishing blow. However, he had never seen this Wang Zan before him, who seemed to be mowing down opponents like chopping melons and slicing vegetables, utterly invincible and unstoppable. He still remembered the scene of their match in the Martial Arts Academy ranking tournament. That Wang Zan, who had declared all students of the same grade to be trash upon entering the Martial Arts Academy, had indeed shown the momentum of a meteoric rise. In a mere 1 or 2 months, he became a martial artist, killed beasts, defeated seniors, and swept the field. Ultimately, he was regrettably defeated by a student he faced after Huang Pufeng. Of course, Huang Pufeng would never admit that Wang Zan had nearly beaten him senseless, leaving him collapsed on the arena floor. Sun Kellen also recalled many past events. She had met Wang Zan in the principal's office and learned that this recently enrolled junior brother would become the captain of the Chu State Military Martial Academy team, leading them into battle. Back then, she hadn't felt much about it, nor had she wanted to compete for the limelight. Who would have known that, because of the Royal Martial Arts Academy incident, Wang Zan would avenge himself so quickly and decisively, driving them off the battlefield. Afterward, she herself had ventured deep into the death battlefield for training. This not only established an invincible foundation for Chu State Military Martial Academy's great victory but also led to the stationing of mentors from the military department. Yes, especially after seeing Wang Zan on the eastern battlefield and learning more of the inside story. She had become increasingly convinced that Wang Zan was the one who had caused the military department to make such a significant move. Yet, she had no idea his combat record was so astonishing, it was nothing short of a miracle. Only the clueless Chen Mengshu, watching Wang Zan slay a Grandmaster realm expert with a single slash in the E7 area of Jing State, her eyes shining, murmured dreamily, "Junior brother Wang Zan is truly powerful." Outside, people were discussing Wang Zan's affairs, which were naturally overheard by the two vice principals of the Grandmaster and Grandmaster realm. However, they had seen the world and, after the incident with Wang Zan, had received messages from the two big shots, Yan Tani and Minayu. They didn't lose their composure but were filled with sighs. Such a student is indeed a blessing for the Chu State Military Martial Academy, but blessings and curses are intertwined. The problems Wang Zan is causing are truly escalating, so much so that the Chu State Military Martial Academy can neither stop nor block them, unless they make the hard decision to abandon the Chu State Military Martial Academy. What are your plans next, Wang Zan? Don't blame us. Sigh, everyone knows martial artists are powerful, but who understands their helplessness? If you were just an ordinary person, We could certainly protect you. Even if we temporarily offended the Federation's four great powers, they wouldn't personally intervene. But now. Liu Zheng sighed faintly, his once straight back now somewhat stooped. Wang Zan smiled, directly interrupting Liu Zheng's lament. Principal, I'm fine, don't overthink it. Since I've agreed to be an exchange student, then let's do it. After all, someone with nothing to lose isn't afraid of those who have plenty. I won't be at a disadvantage. Maybe I can even get some benefits out of them. I'm only a level 8 warrior now. Even a little bit would be enough for me to advance. That would be a fantastic opportunity. However, I do want to say a few things, Wang Zan said, his expression turning serious. I said I would help the Chu State Military Martial Academy win first place in the Federal Martial Arts Competition, and I will definitely do it. Principals, don't interrupt me, let me finish. I'm not doing this for the Chu State Military Martial Academy, but for myself. He was now a level 8 warrior, but from now on, he'd be like an orphan. If he didn't hurry and grab some scraps, he'd be left to starve. Furthermore, I really want to say that the current Chu State Military Martial Academy is far too comfortable. I'm not negating your teaching methods, but I believe their potential is greater than this. You always focus on resources but overlook opportunities. You want first place? Then fight for it. You want resources? Then seize them. You want to kill beasts? Then go face the beast tides. Only by daring to fight and seize, and by acknowledging their own inferiority, can the Chu State Military Martial Academy continue to advance. Otherwise, they will stagnate here. Liu Zheng and Lv Xinglong remained silent, their faces twitching slightly. Although Wang Zan's words were somewhat blunt, they weren't wrong. Afraid of people dying? The ones who survive, grow stronger, and acquire abundant cultivation resources in battle. Those are the true geniuses. Undoubtedly, Wang Zan belonged to this category. Wang Qi did too. Take Wang Zan, for example. He was merely a level 8 warrior, yet he dared to slay a level 9 Grandmaster. Even if he relied on external power, if it were someone else, like Song Dongming or Huang Pufeng, would they dare? Wang Zan dared. On what basis? Not external power, not saber techniques, not backing. It was because he refused to die. That is the true strength of a martial artist. Those who have known desperate poverty dare, the wealthy do not, nor do the complacent rich. After saying a few more things, Wang Zan gave a self-deprecating laugh. Principals, I was a bit presumptuous just now. But the reasoning stands. Similarly, my striving to reclaim first place for Chu State Military Martial Academy isn't purely to put pressure on the academy, it's more for myself. I think you both also know that the rewards for becoming champion are indeed substantial. If I obtain them, putting other things aside, I'll at least have some means of self-preservation, even as an exchange student. But, with your current physical defense at the martial general level or above, can you really still participate? Lv Xinglong mused, his voice hesitant. It wasn't impossible to let Wang Zan return to compete in the Federal Martial Arts Competition. However, Wang Zan already had martial general level defense and had killed a Grandmaster. It was indeed a bit like bullying, that wasn't how the game was played. Although Lv Xinglong didn't know exactly what the Blood Essence Pill was, Minayu had briefly mentioned its effects. Warrior Realm, Martial General Defense, Grandmaster Combat Power. This was Wang Zan's true strength. Wang Zan chuckled. No problem. I've fully absorbed the Blood Essence Pill. Now I'm a genuine level 8 warrior. No matter who investigates, this is my level, it doesn't violate the rules. However, before that, I do have a few things I'd like to trouble you both with. Speak. Fully absorbed? How is that possible? But the two of them felt guilty towards Wang Zan and didn't have the gall to ask. Simple. I need to trouble Principal Liu to use his full strength and realm to suppress me. It must absolutely carry killing intent, allowing me to experience the feeling of a desperate situation. The harsher, the better. Seeing their stunned and twitching expressions, Wang Zan said softly, quite confident, don't worry. Although I'm only at the warrior realm and currently can't use any external power at all, when it comes down to it, I still have some life-saving measures. Wang Zan wanted to do this, naturally, because of the analysis he and Qin Ying had done that morning regarding his bloodline talent. He somewhat suspected he might possess multiple bloodline talents. For example, speed, mental energy, and also the unknown talent contained within the Blood Essence Pill. By this calculation, I have at least 3 types of bloodline talent that could become my trump cards, my killing moves. Unfortunately, my understanding of bloodline talents is superficial and shallow. I can only rely on external force to quickly locate, find, and activate them. However, hearing Wang Zan say this, the expressions of the two principals turned a little strange. No other reason. It was just too heart-wrenching. Although I can't use external power, I still have some life-saving measures." What kind of talk was that? Between the two of them, one was a Grandmaster and the other a Grandmaster. In the Federation, though not widely famous, they were still formidable figures with undeniable strength, having achieved numerous meritorious deeds on the battlefield in the past. Who would have thought that now they were being so slighted by a mere level 8 warrior, this little bastard, as if he barely regarded them, treating them as mere foils. Yet, whenever they thought about Wang Zan's combat record, they felt like they were about to have a heart attack. What could they do? Before enrollment, he was a martial student. Just half a year after enrolling, he became a warrior. Moreover, he had killed quite a few martial generals and grandmasters, and even a half-step grandmaster had fallen at his hands. As for Chu State Military Martial Academy's contribution? Merely some insignificant academic credits and cultivation resources. Their relationship was tenuous indeed. At that moment, when Wang Zan appeared at the temporary stadium, the Chu State Military Martial Academy's base, the 3 principals from the Federation's 4 great academies inside the temporary stadium, excluding Edward, all naturally noticed his presence. Mu Dongjun, principal of the Federal Military Martial Academy, merely glanced over and noticed that Wang Zan seemed to have eliminated the complications of the blood essence pill. His eyebrows furrowed slightly. Could it be that he has absorbed the bloodline talent from the blood essence pill? The blood essence pill was a truly precious item from the Federal Military Department. Putting other things aside, unless one held it in their hand, even martial emperors couldn't tell what kind of bloodline talent was hidden within it. Do you all think he will continue to participate in the competition? Wei Daming asked curiously. Even though he was the principal of the Federal Martial Arts Academy, he too was very eager to recruit a genius like Wang Zan. Of course, none of them mentioned Wang Zan having absorbed the bloodline talent within the blood essence pill. They were insiders, apart from needing to confirm its type, they had no doubts and had immediately recognized the change in Wang Zan. Yan Tanii smiled faintly. Who knows? If this kid has truly eliminated the complications, it's a good thing. However, using that bloodline talent in the competition would indeed be a bit problematic. It would be best to restrict it somewhat. Chapter 154, Quota. Besides, doesn't he want Liu Zhen to help test his bloodline talent? If the talent isn't dangerous, I think giving him a chance wouldn't be so bad, Yan Tanii said with a smile. The other two immediately understood Yan Tanii's intentions. Giving Wang Zan an opportunity was tantamount to handing over the honor of the 4 great. Even if one of them was squeezed out, the strength of the other 3 would be questioned. However, this was enough to resonate with the students of the 4 great. This was a disgrace, the greatest humiliation encountered by the 4 great since the establishment of the Federation. The impact of the Royal Martial Arts Academy's defeat had already begun to lessen after the 4 great shamelessly offered 300,000 points, and the gap between them and others was gradually widening. But if they really followed Yan Tanii's idea, there would be many more twists and turns in this Federal Martial Arts competition. One should know that 300,000 points are no joke, the eventual winner would definitely claim the lion's share of them. Especially in the final championship, each fight in the top 10 would cost the loser 30,000 points. It would be a high-stakes battle, dare to lose, and one would immediately be pushed to the bottom, facing a second-chance playoff. It was a contest of true strength where only victory was acceptable, defeat was not an option. Winners would soar to the heavens, while losers would fall from grace. However, Wei Daming and Mu Dongjun were deep in thought. It was certain that Wang Zan would become an exchange student. Once he was pushed out by the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy, his ties with the academy would undoubtedly be severed then and there. The problem was, this kid was trouble. Never mind offending the Royal Martial Arts Academy, he had also stirred up considerable resentment among the teams from the 4 great. If the mentors in his own academy didn't look favorably upon him, these academic credits could become Wang Zan's last resource for advancement. After all, they were academy heads, not Wang Zan's father. Although they couldn't bear to see such a top talent fade into obscurity. However, if Wang Zan proved uncooperative, they might just offer him some benefits, if only to save face for the 4 great. In the end, from the moment Wang Zan became an exchange student, it was not the name of the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy that hung on him, but the name of the 4 great. At that moment, a figure quietly appeared behind the 3 martial emperors and spoke, his face devoid of expression. I agree. Huh? The 3 were startled and immediately turned their heads, only to find Edward, who was supposed to be Wang Zan's bitter enemy. What's gotten into him today? Edward took a deep breath and said calmly, Li Shiji is dead, and my Royal Martial Arts Academy has lost a decisive level 9 Grandmaster. Since Wang Zan claims to have the ability and can carry the name of federal talent, then I'll also step in to support him. However, I need a promise from you all. If, one day, Wang Zan cannot bear his responsibilities, I will personally collect this debt from him. Edward was not afraid of the military department. The Four Great? He was one of them, their equal. However, the things Li Changyuan and Minayu did to Li Shiji were too excessive, so excessive that Edward felt as if he had been struck by lightning when he heard the news. Since that's the case, isn't Wang Zan supposed to be very capable? Then let him shoulder Li Shiji's responsibilities. If he can bear them, he, Edward, will personally vouch for him, targeting only those audacious figures within the military department. If he cannot, then don't blame Edward for being ruthless, he will crush Wang Zan along with them. If you don't have the ability, don't make the boast. The current federation isn't like the ancient times, people truly die here. Li Shiji is dead? Let Wang Zan shoulder Li Shiji's responsibilities. The other three immediately understood Edward's meaning, their faces filled with astonishment. Old man, are you insane? He's only a level 8 warrior right now. Even if he defeated Li Shiji, he couldn't possibly have killed him, especially not by relying on external power. They all knew who Li Shiji was. The more they knew, the more they understood that Edward was grasping at straws. This was simply preposterous. Even if Wang Zan is a genius, could he become a grandmaster expert and establish his own team within a year? Don't be ridiculous. Edward, think this through. Even if Li Shiji is dead, the Royal Martial Arts Academy still has other substitutes. There's no need to pin your hopes on Wang Zan. This is madness. You're gambling with the Federation's future. A single spot seems simple, but it could cost lives. It not only determined the resource allocation for any academy qualified to enter the battlefield the following year but also had an enormous impact on the academy itself. Even a single loss could irrevocably widen the gap, making all efforts futile. Edward looked at his old companions. Just moments ago, there was still a rift between them, yet now, after he had resolved to see this through to the bitter end, they were once again concerned for the Royal Martial Arts Academy's future. He laughed, a tinge of bitterness in his voice. I've made my decision. Wang Zan shattered the morale of my Royal Martial Arts Academy in a single federal martial arts competition. Even if we have a substitute, losing this competition now would be a lasting shame for my Royal Martial Arts Academy. Since that's the case, it's better to concede defeat outright and give the spot directly to Wang Zan. Isn't he a genius? Then let him bear this responsibility. If he can't, then even if I kill him, the Federation will have no grounds to object. After saying this, he turned around and left without another word. The Royal Martial Arts Academy had trained countless powerhouses over the years, but he couldn't bring himself to contact them. Therefore, after Li Shiji's death, the team he had belonged to had long since disintegrated, beyond any hope of reforming. Even if the Royal Martial Arts Academy has substitutes, so what? Who would dare claim they could forge a team ready to face life and death together within a single year? Moreover, the elites of the Royal Martial Arts Academy were all in Li Shiji's team. Even if the current students were exceptionally talented, it would be impossible for them to reach Li Shiji's level of proficiency within a year. But Wang Zan could. He alone was a match for an entire team. With his fatal one-alone, he could be unrivaled within his realm. The only issue was his current realm being too low, forcing him to rely on external power. As for whether this would be like trying to force a sapling to grow too quickly, that wasn't Edward's concern. The Federation had more than enough geniuses. One more Wang Zan wouldn't make a difference, nor would a lack of one. The others remained silent. Edward's meaning was clear. The Royal Martial Arts Academy wasn't without resources, but it couldn't afford to gamble this time. Even the Four Great were not invincible. Powerful academies that had originated from the Four Great, though nominally still associated with them by name, had long since severed any true affiliation. The Federation's geniuses must serve the Federation, not any single martial arts academy. So, he wanted Wang Zan. He wanted Wang Zan to take the Royal Martial Arts Academy's spot. You defeated me, didn't you? Fine, I won't move against you. Instead, you will bring me a brighter, more glorious future. If you can't, I'll kill you. If you can, you're essentially preparing a dowry for us. The Four Great had always been domineering. Yan Tani glanced at his two colleagues, sighing inwardly. He had originally planned to recruit Wang Zan for Yanjing Martial Arts Academy. With a few years of nurturing, followed by Wang Zan staying on at the academy for several more years, he might have even been able to represent Yanjing Martial Arts Academy in the competition. But now Edward, who harbored what amounted to a blood feud with Wang Zan, was personally demanding him. Although the other two academies also coveted Wang Zan, their primary concern was the unified standing and strength of the Four Great. Wang Zan, oh Wang Zan, you'll have to fend for yourself now. He was powerless to intervene. He couldn't be the one to make the final, irrevocable break, to tear through that last thin layer of decorum. The wilderness. Liu Zhen gazed at Wang Zan, who was clearly exhausted and pale, his own expression complex. He was acutely aware of what the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy had just lost. Similarly, LV Zinglong's face twitched, a pang of regret in his heart. Moments ago, Wang Zan's bloodline talent had been unmistakably revealed before them. Although they didn't understand the specifics of his bloodline talent, that didn't prevent them from recognizing the devastating power of Wang Zan's trump card. "You've won," Liu Zhen said in a deep voice. He had lost to his own student. It felt like being defeated by his own child, leaving him with a sense of disappointment, his spirit and energy seeming to diminish, making him appear even older. "I'm really getting old. I can't even beat a young brat anymore." Even though they were part of the Federation, and held dean-level positions within the Federal Martial Arts Academies, Wang Zan's performance made them realize they were becoming disconnected from the Federation's current reality. "Are we, in this state, truly fit to be mentors anymore?" Wang Zan, already utterly exhausted, felt a surge of joy upon discovering the capabilities of his bloodline talent. Yet, his face remained expressionless, beginning to take on a coldness reminiscent of Edward. He stated formally, "Thank you, Dean Liu. I was just taking advantage of the situation. If we really had to fight, I'm afraid I wouldn't be a match for you in a single exchange." With that thank you, the line between Wang Zan and the two deans was indelibly drawn. Henceforth, their paths would no longer intersect. But Wang Zan did not stop there. He continued in a deep voice, "I will absolutely secure first place in this federal martial arts competition for the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy. That was the first condition. The second condition is this: I expect the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy to ensure the well-being of my mother, Yang Kui. Otherwise, you will face my fury." This was a transaction, yet Wang Zan's coercion already bordered on being unreasonable. In fact, ever since Wang Zan's incident, Yang Kui, a middle-aged woman known for her flamboyant, wavy perm, had been forcibly moved back to her residential complex by the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy, ostensibly to ensure her safety. As the one who had caused all this, Wang Zan, now truly an unfilial son, couldn't bring himself to face Yang Kui. He didn't even dare to call her. His mother had never wanted him to become a martial artist. Yet, after becoming one, he had brought disaster upon their home. How could Wang Zan possibly face his mother after such a disgraceful turn of events? Liu Zhen and LV Zinglong's expressions turned ugly for a moment, but they quickly schooled their features, becoming expressionless once more. All right. Although a thread of their past connection lingered, it didn't prevent them from understanding the finality in Wang Zan's words. From this moment on, Wang Zan and the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy were truly and utterly estranged. The third matter. Tell Teacher Wan Kun that I, Wang Zan, have wronged him. The only way I can repay the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy for its nurturing is by winning first place in the Federal Martial Arts competition with a military killing fist. After speaking, Wang Zan did not linger. The deans of the 4th grade had already messaged him, summoning him for a meeting. He really was busy. He had no time to haggle with the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy, which had cast him out so unceremoniously, like a basin of dirty water. Chapter 155 Finally meet the wilderness was bleak, human figures scarce and silent. The sun of Jing State shone upon its lands, witnessing another cycle of human unions and separations, ever unpredictable. Alas, don't blame us. We couldn't protect you. Liu Zhen would likely never have imagined, on the day Wang Zan entered the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy, that things would come to this. That one day, the bond between Wang Zan and the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy could deteriorate to such an extent in just a single short month, almost completely severed. The former master and disciple were destined to become strangers. The genius of yesteryear might find his fortunes elsewhere. Such were the complex ties of gratitude and resentment, the ever-fickle nature of worldly affairs. On the edge of the wilderness, Wang Zan quietly paused, turning his head back, as if seeing two hunched elderly figures. They were once comrades in arms, now, they were colleagues. Their days should have been peaceful. Yet, in what felt like the blink of an eye, years seemed to have passed, leaving them aged and reliant on each other for support. Relying on others is not as reliable as relying on oneself. I am still too weak, conspiracies and calculations lurk everywhere. Li Chengyuan, the Royal Martial Arts Academy, the Federation's 4 great academies, the Zhu family, the Yang family, the 12 families of Jing State. None of them will be my allies. Even Yan Tani of Yanjing Martial Arts Academy, who has repeatedly protected me, does so because he sees my value. Success breeds distinction, as does failure. Being too conspicuous not only invites envy but also clouds one's judgment of the situation. Perhaps I should act more discreetly from now on. At least, until I possess sufficient strength, I cannot afford to be overly ostentatious. Wang Zan thought. He chose to depart directly, without leaving any parting words for the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy. He needed power, resources, more sparring, and faster progress. Only power, overwhelming power, could allow him to stand tall and proud within the Federation. Even if beset by schemes, he could remain fearless. Thus, his gaze grew even more profound, and the craving for strength in his heart became more distinct and urgent. Perhaps, as Kenying said, I truly need to fight tooth and nail for a spot in the Death Expeditionary Force. Looking at the system interface, his mind was exceptionally calm, without the slightest ripple. It's merely a matter of strength. With the system, all I need to do is strive forward relentlessly. Sooner or later, those who schemed against me will meet a bloody end. Host, Wang Zan Strength, 3,200 Agility, 3,200 Physique, 3,200 Charm, 240 Wisdom, 100 Mental Power, 4,800 Temporary Stadium. He is here. Yan Tani's gaze was profound as he looked in a certain direction. In appearance, however, he seemed no different from an ordinary old man. Dressed in casual attire, with his hair half white, an unwitting observer might mistake him for an ordinary university professor. Edward was not present. However, Wei Daming, headmaster of the Federal Martial Arts Academy, and Yu Dongjun, headmaster of the Federal Military Martial Arts Academy, had been gathered together from the outset and had not left. Wei Daming chuckled. So, how should we meet him? Together or separately? Mu Dongjun smiled, directly breaking the trio's unspoken agreement, and said bluntly, let's meet him separately. As it happens, I'd also like to meet him. Setting aside other matters, the mere fact that his body could withstand so many blood essence pills without succumbing is enough to prove that Wang Zan has inherited a good deal of Wang Yudao's profound bloodline talent. Just how much bloodline talent Wang Yudao possessed, not even these old men knew for certain. However, this did not hinder their deduction. If not for the protection of his bloodline talent, Wang Zan would have exploded and died the very first time he consumed a blood essence pill. Similarly, all three wanted to meet him, naturally for this reason. Although Edward had already laid claim to Wang Zan, the three of them, being closely allied, found it unseemly to compete openly. But they could act privately, promising Wang Zan certain benefits to secure his allegiance. After all, compared to Edward, these elders clearly presented a gentler and more approachable attitude towards Wang Zan. Yan Taniyu said calmly, in that case, very well. Let's each meet him individually. The bloodline talent Wang Zan had just revealed, while somewhat common, still possessed a degree of power. However, they were not concerned about this. They were more interested in Wang Zan himself. This was the benefit of a potent bloodline. As long as one survived, there would always be an opportunity to awaken one's bloodline talent. Of course, awakening a bloodline talent always came with a price. For instance, falling into a prolonged dormant state after its release. Wang Zan gazed at the magnificent temporary stadium. Suddenly, an aged voice reached his ears. It was Yan Tani. Although they had never met, Yan Tani had played a considerable role in matters concerning Wang Zan, whether it was the death battlefield incident or the upheavals during the Battle of Jing State. Moreover, he was one of the rare influential figures who held a favorable view of Wang Zan. Therefore, as soon as Yan Tani contacted him, Wang Zan could discern from just a few sentences that Yan Tani had indeed invested considerable thought into him. Later, we will meet you one by one. This is the time to negotiate terms. Even if you become an exchange student, that doesn't negate the fact that you are the third-ranked talent in this year's federation, which is what interests them. So, don't worry about how harsh their conditions might be, just agree to them. The only thing you need to do now is get stronger, and keep getting stronger. As for everything else, we can talk when we meet. Yes, senior. Wang Zan's heart tensed, and his attitude became exceedingly respectful. Talent? The dead are just corpses, losers, worth nothing. Only those who are alive and advance to the forefront are true powerhouses. And so, atop the temporary stadium, Wang Zan finally met the first of these figures from the Federation's four great academies. A martial emperor and an academy headmaster. It was Mu Dongjun. Sit. Mu Dongjun said with a smile, his demeanor calm. He appeared to be an ordinary middle-aged man, with slightly thinning hair at his temples. He did not resemble a scholar dedicated to research, rather, he looked more like a diligent, honest mechanic. Thank you. Wang Zan did not refuse and sat down immediately. This isn't the time for deference. I'm to be an exchange student, so the next step is to secure cultivation resources for myself. Otherwise, relying solely on my own efforts, who knows how many years it would take to join the ranks of the strong. There was no admiration in Mu Dongjun's eyes, only a faint smile as he spoke candidly. You are this year's third-ranked genius in the Federation. Our Federal Military Martial Arts Academy once approached you with an invitation, but you declined. Frankly, back then, you should have considered whether a minor place like the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy could truly shelter a troublemaker like you. Wang Zan remained silent, his expression solemn as he listened attentively. During your time in Oceania, I also instructed our team captain, Hinking, to assess your capabilities and see if a friendship could be formed. Unfortunately, neither of you had the opportunity to meet until now. Had it not taken this long, I might have been able to offer you better terms. But now, I suppose you have some inkling, don't you? Wang Zan nodded. How could he not? It was this junior who was insensible before. Now, I earnestly request seniors' guidance. They invited me so many times, and I refused them all. It was like being offered a ladder and refusing to climb. Although I didn't reject Hanking's goodwill, our relationship didn't deepen. I never imagined the situation would develop so rapidly, or that the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy would backstab me so viciously. What else could I do but lower my head? Mu Dongjun said nothing further. Instead, a mobile phone silently appeared in Wang Zan's hand. Wang Zan's heart constricted. He carefully inspected it but found nothing unusual, as if it had materialized there quite naturally. Is this the wondrous application of the Martial Emperor realm? Or does it signify an even greater transformation of mental energy at the Martial Emperor realm? Take a look first. I'll speak with you afterwards. Puzzled, Wang Zan activated the screen. His pupils immediately constricted. He saw himself in the video. His battle with Yu on Shizen on the death battlefield. But there was more. It was Li Chengyuan. He was still arranging everything for me behind the scenes, even recording all this and posting it online. What on earth is he trying to do? But Mu Dongjun's intention was quite clear. Before them, Wang Zan had no secrets. Mu Dongjun, who had been observing him, finally nodded. So, he's not a fool. A genius who doesn't know how to ensure their own survival is not a genius, but an idiot. The Federal Military Martial Arts Academy had no need for idiots. He said no more and directly stated his terms. As an exchange student, I don't require you to join our academy immediately, as Headmaster Edward has already specifically invited you to the Royal Martial Arts Academy. However, you must first undergo special training in my Federal Martial Arts Academy for over 6 months. The Federation can provide for this a heavenly martial art, a top-grade king-level armor, and cover all elixir consumption. Additionally, a Martial Emperor realm expert will lecture you for 3 days, addressing your questions and resolving your doubts. What do you think? Wang Zan looked up at him, his heart clenching. The terms are excellent, the benefits substantial. But this so-called special training is unlikely to be pleasant. However, as meat on the chopping block, do I even have the option to refuse? After pondering for a moment, he slowly nodded. All right. But I need to receive the king-level armor in advance. Also, I don't need heavenly-level martial arts, I only require the right to access the general martial arts of the Royal Martial Arts Academy. Oh? Mu Dongjun gave him a deep look, suddenly finding the situation interesting. He doesn't want heavenly-level martial arts? Is he that confident in his fatal one-slash? Or in Shi Jingshan's 8 Extremes fist? Interesting, very interesting. After being bored for so long, how could I not agree? Good. I can agree to that. And so, even before his enrollment at the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy had formally ended, Wang Zan directly received a set of top-grade king-level armor from Mu Dongjun. Of course, it could not be used in the Federal Martial Arts competition. But were the offerings of the Federation's 4 great academies truly so easily obtained? An ordinary person might shy away. But Wang Zan silently made a ruthless vow in his heart. Isn't it just because I have no backing? Am I supposed to be a scapegoat for the geniuses of the 4 great academies? Chapter 156, Future Prospects and Retreat. A blameless man becomes guilty when he possesses a coveted treasure. If Wang Zan were an ordinary person, he absolutely wouldn't have had the opportunity to be pulled into the Federation's murky affairs. But who could he blame for being Wang Yudao's son and, as fate would have it, inheriting Wang Yudao's almost invincible fatal saber technique? However, you probably wouldn't have thought I'm here because I have a cheat, right? As long as I don't die, my foundation will grow deeper, my realm higher, and my power stronger. At that time, once this deal is completed, if anyone still dares to plot against me, I'll make sure they're beaten black and blue. Damn it. I refuse to believe that if no one in the slums could kill me, I would fall into your hands now. Wang Zan's expression remained unchanged, but his mind was in turmoil. Royal Martial Arts Academy, Zhu family, Li Chengyuan, the original organization. Every single one of them. Once my fist gets bigger, none of them can dream of escaping. Did they truly believe his title as the little tyrant of Chu State was just for show? It was earned by repeatedly risking his life for blood money, scaring others into submission. Once the first matter was settled, the second followed. Wei Daming, the principal of the Federal Martial Arts Academy, was a martial emperor-level expert, resembling a Federation scholar. Has the Federation's young hero arrived? Have a seat, Wei Daming said, not bothering with pleasantries and teasing Wang Zan as soon as he entered. Wang Zan's expression tensed, and he replied with some sheepish embarrassment, "Senior, I'm just a warrior. You could crush me with a single toe. Please stop joking." Ha 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 ha. Wei Daming laughed heartily. What's wrong with that? Honestly, among the young people in the Federation today, only you, Wang Zan, have some real courage. The others are either mediocre or just pretty boys, all show and no substance. Since that's the case, why shouldn't you be the Federation's young hero? Come, have some tea. I'm not in a hurry, we can chat slowly. Wei Daming actually poured him a pot of tea. Wang Zan took a tentative sip, unsure of its type, and was immediately stunned. He hadn't drunk much tea in his life. The last time was a cup brewed by Zhang He, a lieutenant from the eastern battlefield. That cup of tea had cost Zhang He his life. Now, this single mouthful of tea had surprisingly earned him 10 extreme attributes. Was this a coincidence? Wei Daming paid no mind to Wang Zan's distraction, instead chuckling softly, "How's the tea?" Wang Zan replied slowly, "I don't know much about tea, but it feels mellow with a rich aftertaste and a faint, pure fragrance. And its medicinal power. It's very strong. I can clearly feel my strength increasing." Wei Daming smiled faintly. "Very perceptive, but that's not the main point. I heard that a young man named Zhang He from the eastern battlefield in Oceania once tried to assassinate you but, being soft-hearted, ended up falling into your hands. I want to know, why did you spare him? And on what grounds did you exchange a cup of tea for his life? How did Wei Daming even hear about this?" Wang Zan wondered. Moreover, before he even had a chance to use this chess piece he had saved, Wei Daming's attitude suggested he had developed a favorable impression of him because of this incident. Wang Zan dared not speculate wildly or speak carelessly. He knew that when facing an expert of the martial emperor realm, whose command over mental energy was unfathomable, he had to be on full alert, or it could truly be fatal. Wang Zan said softly, he was indeed following orders from the original organization, betraying the Eastern battlefield and the Federation. But I also lived on the Eastern battlefield. I know the joys, sorrows, the elation, and despair there. Apart from life and death battles with beasts on the battlefield, many things aren't that important. As long as he was a competent warrior and showed mercy when he tried to kill me, that was enough. Of course, that was also a favor I sold him. As long as he doesn't die, he'll have to repay me one day." Wang Zan concealed nothing, even stating his purpose. Of course, he didn't specify whether this purpose was directed at the original organization, a particular faction, or the military department. There was no need to. In the current Federation, life was precarious. Grudges and favors weren't truly important. The most important thing was to live, to keep living. As long as one could survive and advance rapidly, one would gain the desired power. Wang Zan understood this clearly. Wei Daming naturally understood this as well. So, he nodded. "Very good. Since you've been so candid, I don't need to hide anything either. The Federal Martial Arts Academy also needs to borrow you for half a year. In return, we can allow you to freely consult ancient books and martial arts, excluding heavenly-level martial arts. We will also provide all the resources you need for advancement during these 6 months, a customized weapon made just for you, and allow you to freely observe the cultivation sessions of martial emperor-level experts. What do you think?" Wang Zan looked at Wei Daming seriously. These terms required no consideration. It was as if Wei Daming wanted to adopt him. Compared to what the Federal Military Academy might offer, while not worlds apart, the sincerity was evident, especially the last point. "Good." Wang Zan nodded, though his mind was racing. That Chu Yuming fellow is certainly lucky. If I had known earlier that the principal of the Federal Martial Arts Academy was so willing to invest heavily, I might have seriously considered it back then. What a pity. At that time, I was at best a decent martial student. The most crucial factor was that I could actually kill a grandmaster using a blood essence pill. Perhaps I need to build a better relationship with Chu Yuming. I wonder if Changshu knows him? Ultimately, Wang Zan knew it all came down to strength. Now that the matter was settled, Wei Daming chuckled. "Your talent is indeed impressive. Others drinking this tea wouldn't experience such a significant boost. Well, fine talent deserves fine jade, good wine is for a cherished guest. Since it's useful to you, take half a kilogram back with you later. It should be beneficial for you until you reach the Martial King realm. Consider it a token of sincerity from the Federal Martial Arts Academy." Clearly, he liked honest people. Yan Tani glanced at the tea Wang Zan was carrying and smiled. That fellow Wei Daming is certainly generous, giving you a whole half-kilogram of ancient tree tea. You're quite lucky, kid. After meeting two of the Federation's major figures, Wang Zan had naturally made his way to Yan Tani, who was on the roof of the temporary stadium. Ancient tree tea? Wang Zan asked, curious. Yan Tani explained, you should know, though the Federation's history is short, Earth's history is very long. It can be roughly divided into numerous eras such as ancient times, remote antiquity, the Middle Ages, ancient times, and so on. Naturally, many good things have been passed down. Ancient treaty is one such item. However, it's exclusive to the Federal Martial Arts Academy, capable of growing only in the deepest parts of their grounds. No one can obtain it unless they manage to conquer the Federal Martial Arts Academy. That's why I say you're lucky. Your strength must have increased considerably, right? Although this tea is useless for those at or above the Martial King realm, its effects are very noticeable for those below it. He wouldn't have given you so much for free unless you truly moved him. Knowing that Yan Tani also wanted something from him but had clearly helped him a great deal, Wang Zan didn't hide the truth. I was a level 8 warrior before I came. Now I'm a level 9 warrior. I just need some time to consolidate my realm and further explore my extreme attributes, then I can break through directly. This was, in fact, Wang Zan's greatest gain today, apart from the top-tier king-level battle armor. Armor, after all, was an external object, only one's own strength truly belonged to oneself. The price, however, was being kept in Wei Daming's office for a full hour, drinking tea until the enhancement effects finally began to subside before he was allowed to leave. Yan Tani nodded and got straight to the point. Since you've met them, I presume you understand your situation now. What are your plans? The Royal Martial Arts Academy had made it clear they wanted Wang Zan to take Li Shiji's spot, with a 1-year term. In other words, after spending that year between the Federal Martial Arts Academy and the Federal Military Academy, he might die at Edward's hands or on the battlefield. Either way, it's death. Wang Zan smiled. Since I'm going to die anyway, I might as well grab everything I can first. I can't go back to the Chu State Military Academy now, and I don't truly belong to any of the Federation's 4 great academies. All I can do is try my best to survive. Yan Tani, being an old fox, could easily see the determination and willpower hidden in Wang Zan's eyes. That's true. It's best to hold what's yours in your own hands. Actually, I suggest you choose the Federal Martial Arts Academy for your first exchange. That fellow Wei Daming is kind-hearted, even if he's sending you to your death, he'll give you enough capital. Mu Dongjun, on the other hand, is harder to read. He certainly won't think much of you, it'll just be a formality. If you lack the ability, dying will be for nothing. As for the Royal Martial Arts Academy, you can put them out of your mind for now. Although Li Shiji didn't die by your hand, he was defeated by you. To them, that's a disgrace that can't be easily washed away. Wang Zan pondered, and Yan Tani didn't interrupt. He's right. If I don't have strength, everything else is just a fantasy. It's better to get as much as I can from the Federal Martial Arts Academy now, at least push my strength to peak martial master level, and establish some kind of foundation before thinking about anything else. As for Li Shiji, that fool actually died, possibly at Li Chengyuan's hands, leaving me to take the blame. There's nothing I can do about it. What about you, Senior? Wang Zan joked. If I die, I might not get the chance to go to Yanjing Martial Arts Academy. Going to the Royal Martial Arts Academy wouldn't be easy, and he had already decided not to rely on the military department as his big tree or depend on Li Chengyuan. That only left him to face his fate, to see if his constitution was strong enough to survive the battlefield. Ha 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 ha. Yan Tani laughed heartily. That Wang Zan could still be so open-minded when facing a life-or-death situation made Yan Tani admire him even more, almost wishing he could immediately pull him into his Yanjing Martial Arts Academy to put some pressure on you on Mengru and the others. My Yanjing Martial Arts Academy might not have many other skills, but we're pretty good at judging people. So, go ahead. I'm confident the battlefield won't claim your life just yet. Chapter 157, Joining the Royal Martial Arts Academy, but you can give me a promise. As long as you survive the battlefield, after settling your grudges with the Royal Martial Arts Academy, how about joining my Yanjing Martial Arts Academy? Wang Zan was startled, not expecting Yan Tani's expectations for him to be so high. When would his grudges with the Royal Martial Arts Academy ever end? At best, they could end on the surface. But Yan Tani's words were clear, as long as the conflicts were settled superficially, he could join the Yanjing Martial Arts Academy, which would shield him from any repercussions. Wang Zan fell silent, unable to give an answer right away. He feared encountering events similar to what had happened at the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy. If he survived until that day, he would be at least of martial general realm strength. The stronger he was, the more enemies he would attract, and could the Yanjing Martial Arts Academy withstand the pressure? Yantani saw his hesitation and shouted sharply, "Kid, indecision breeds trouble. Are you still worried that my Yanjing Martial Arts Academy can't take in a mere warrior like you? Whether you even survive until that day is another question entirely. Don't you dare fight again, to start over?" Right. Whether he could survive until that day depended on whether the fickle heavens would even let him live. What was the use of thinking so much? Since he had decided to rely on himself rather than others, why worry about being betrayed by the Yanjing Martial Arts Academy again? That would simply be a coward's mentality, destined to become an obstacle on Wang Zan's path. Wang Zan immediately nodded heavily, his resolute gaze meeting Yantani's. As long as I don't die, if that day truly comes, what's the harm in joining the Yanjing Martial Arts Academy? He didn't ask about his treatment or what conditions Yantani was offering. As long as he was alive, he would strive and fight for what he wanted, living fearlessly. If he wasn't capable, he'd just lie low, or simply accept death without fuss. This was the path Wang Zan chose to walk. Jing State, on the edge of the Northern District, the Emperor's seat. After meeting the headmasters of the 3 martial arts academies, the last person Wang Zan had to meet was naturally Edward from the Royal Martial Arts Academy, who had already singled him out by name. And he would have to meet him in person inside the Royal Martial Arts Academy. He knew this could be his toughest journey today. If he made it, Wang Zan could go back to participate in the Federal Martial Arts competition and officially leave the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy. If he didn't, it was all over. Hence, Wang Zan walked into the Royal Martial Arts Academy openly and with great dignity. He had arrived. He walked past trees standing like sentinels, and on both sides, students from the academy watched him with hatred. He strode resolutely along the path to meet Edward, the headmaster of the Royal Martial Arts Academy, facing gazes utterly devoid of goodwill. However, even though Wang Zan didn't glance sideways, he could feel the hostility in those gazes. It seemed like they were saying, "You're going to die. You're definitely going to die. The Royal Martial Arts Academy is your doom, your graveyard." His heart was calm, his face expressionless, but his mind was active. This truly is a dangerous place. Wasn't it, though? Of the 4 great martial arts academies, Wang Zan had not offended any as deeply as he had the Royal Martial Arts Academy. Especially since this colossal institution harbored a killing intent so palpable it made his skin prickle. That killing intent had to come from at least a martial general, perhaps even a grandmaster realm expert. A top-tier warrior no matter where they were. Just then, a woman with disheveled hair, looking almost crazy, suddenly rushed out from a villa-like building to the left, screaming shrilly. Her face was streaked with tears, and she lunged, trying to claw Wang Zan's face with her sharp nails. "You dare to come here? You killed my senior brother and dare to show up here. I will definitely kill you." For a moment, time and space seemed to freeze. Everyone watched this scene with schadenfreude and great resentment, anticipating Wang Zan's embarrassment. But they didn't know this wasn't the first time Wang Zan had experienced such a situation. Like Qin Ying, who had been in a similar state when she first met him. The only difference was that this woman was truly heartbroken and desperate. Unfortunately, this couldn't qualify as a reason for Wang Zan to accept these trashy accusations and ridicule. So, he slapped her without expression, not caring in the slightest that he was on the Royal Martial Arts Academy's home ground. Since the grudge was irreconcilable, was he supposed to just give himself up and let the Royal Martial Arts Academy do as they pleased with him? Ridiculous. He was Wang Zan, the warrior who dared to kill a grandmaster. "Do you feel better now?" Wang Zan asked softly, looking at the swollen palm print on the woman's face. The entire crowd was shocked into silence, momentarily stunned. The woman slowly lifted her head, her eyes glinting coldly, and bit out each word, "You dare to hit me?" Wang Zan smiled. "Want to see me make a fool of myself? Edward, are you ready? Perhaps William and Ally too? Why wouldn't I dare to hit you?" Wang Zan said. A level 9 grandmaster defeated by a warrior is nothing but absolute trash. Let alone the fact that I didn't kill him. Even if he was truly such garbage, he deserved to die. He was just someone incapable of achieving anything significant. What right do you have to accuse me? Ah. The woman was on the verge of madness. This was the first time she had ever experienced such a thing. She had intended to throw a tantrum like a shrew, but Wang Zan had slapped her straight across the face. "What are you waiting for? Come out, all of you. Come out and kill him for me." She screamed, a short blade appearing in her hand out of nowhere. Her essence energy as a level 5 warrior flared, and she prepared to strike Wang Zan. On both sides, from almost all the buildings, students and mentors of the Royal Martial Arts Academy emerged. nearly 1 to 2,000 of them. They began to encircle Wang Zan tightly. Many of them carried weapons, their auras formidable. Wang Zan grasped the woman's wrist and twisted it. Accompanied by her scream, the short blade in her hand clanged to the ground. "Losers flock with losers," Wang Zan said coldly. "If you want revenge on me, you'd better go back and cultivate for a few more years." Boom. He punched the woman directly in the stomach. He showed no mercy just because she was a woman. An enemy was an enemy, regardless of gender. Kill. This tyrannical act thoroughly enraged the students of the Royal Martial Arts Academy, especially the hot-blooded junior students, who charged forward fearlessly. At least 40 to 50 of them intended to pin Wang Zan down. This was undoubtedly a test orchestrated by the students of the Royal Martial Arts Academy. They would not tolerate someone who brought shame upon them all. Wang Zan looked at these aggressive junior students and the higher-ranked martial artists watching coldly from the sidelines. A slight, cold smile touched his lips, his eyes icy, his expression unchanged. Clang. The Lin blade was unsheathed. He stood proudly before everyone, his gaze unwavering, and said coldly, "I didn't kill Li Shiji, and I won't accept accusations from anyone. But if you want to test my strength, then come and try." At this critical moment, a mentor descended from the sky, stirring up a powerful gust of wind, and shouted sternly, "Everyone, stop at once." "Mentor. Mentor." The newcomer said in a stern voice, "Shut up." He turned his head. He was a fierce-looking man in his 30s. His gaze on Wang Zan was cold, his aura powerful, clearly intending to force Wang Zan back. But Wang Zan remained rooted to the spot, unmoving, as if he didn't even see the man. He merely lowered the Lin blade he held, resting its tip on the ground, standing with it much like he had on the death battlefield. "Very good," the man said indifferently. "You are the first person to dare act so presumptuously in my Royal Martial Arts Academy. Now, follow me. Others, take her away." He completely ignored the woman's miserable wails, simply ordering everyone to clear a path. Amidst the endless hostility, he led Wang Zan to the highest tower of the Royal Martial Arts Academy. Hanjin Palace. At Hanjin Palace. It stood over 1,000 meters tall, overlooking more than half of Jing State. A Gothic structure, it symbolized the royal family faction to which the Royal Martial Arts Academy belonged. At this moment, Edward was sitting in his office. He didn't spare Wang Zan, who had been led in by the mentor, even a single glance. He merely let Wang Zan stand before him while he focused intently on the Royal Martial Arts Academy's daily affairs, as if Wang Zan were nothing but a phantom. Wang Zan remained impassive, even taking the leisure to observe the decor of Edward's office. Valuable ancient wooden furniture was everywhere. Countless medals and certificates of merit belonging to the Royal Martial Arts Academy hung on the walls. In the front was a bookshelf piled high with countless scrolls from the Su family, while the back displayed a few seemingly ordinary spoils of war. Nothing stood out. It wasn't until dusk that Edward finally finished his work. He rubbed his temples, then walked to the edge of the balcony. Looking down at the Royal Martial Arts Academy below, he said softly, "Come over." Wang Zan stood beside him, not uttering a word. "This is the Royal Martial Arts Academy," Edward said. "It belongs to the royal family. The land here, the honor, the medals, the meritorious achievements. All of them are contributions the royal family has made to the Federation. For these damn trivialities, to this day, we have sacrificed the lives of nearly 300,000 students." Edward spoke on, not caring whether Wang Zan was listening. Wang Zan just felt a heavy weight in his heart. He didn't offer any rebuttal, simply savoring the unique sense of isolation that came with standing at such a height. The human race, never to be enslaved. But behind this slogan lay the countless lives of brave human race warriors, their blood and sweat poured out, a sacrifice enduring for eternity. Edward spoke for a full hour, his voice only softening as the city lights began to twinkle below. "Don't blame them," he said. "They need an outlet for their frustrations, and you're a suitable target. Similarly, don't blame me. If you can't handle it, I will kill you without hesitation. My contributions to the Federation are enough to grant me immunity for killing a genius." This was power, and also honor. Wang Zan didn't know what to say, so he just listened. He didn't accept these accusations, but he also knew that what Edward said was true. Then, Edward said tiredly, devoid of any resentment, "Go now and begin your journey as an exchange student. Within a year, I will not move against you, but I can't guarantee they won't. So, if you don't want to die, survive. Your first step is to walk out of the Royal Martial Arts Academy alive and well. But remember, no one else from my Royal Martial Arts Academy can die. If they do, you will accompany them in death." Chapter 158 Bodyguard Yangqi. Under the moonlit night, the lantern shone brightly once more. With an expressionless face, Wang Zan stepped out of the Royal Martial Arts Academy, akin to emerging from a heavy ambush. His passage was unobstructed. Not only was that madwoman nowhere to be seen, but not a single student from the Royal Martial Arts Academy was in sight either. Can't kill, can't die. Humphrey. Wang Zan sneered. Humanity had survived to this day, countless martial artists had perished. Why was it that when it came to the Royal Martial Arts Academy, its people couldn't die? Of course, he understood Edward's intentions. The people of the Royal Martial Arts Academy could die, but they should die on the battlefield, not at the hands of their own. But Edward had forgotten one thing: Wang Zan was human, and so was Edward himself. Humans are inherently selfish and have weaknesses. So why couldn't the people of the Royal Martial Arts Academy die? Why should Wang Zan have to die with them if they perished? It was because they operated under the grand banner of the Royal Martial Arts Academy. In that case, just let them die in their sickbeds. Wang Zan cherished his life, but that didn't mean he would always submit. If he couldn't kill them, or wasn't permitted to, he would cripple this worthless trash. They were utterly unworthy of stepping onto the battlefield. Since his rise, in less than a single year, Wang Zan's time had been consumed by internal strife. Only his days in Oceania, slaughtering beasts to his heart's content, had felt truly fulfilling. It was simply absurd. He is out. From the shadows, countless pairs of eyes stared intently at Wang Zan, like pythons ready to devour their prey. This battle could not involve martial generals or grandmasters. But the same limitation applied to Wang Zan: he couldn't use any power beyond the martial master realm, which effectively tied his hands. This was precisely why Edward hadn't even mentioned Wang Zan's bloodline talent. While powerful, it wasn't something a warrior could even glimpse, at least not until reaching the martial king realm. Kill him. Make him accompany our mentor in death. Someone hissed sinisterly, a sharp, cold glint of light wavering in the darkness, chilling one to the bone. He deserves to die. So what if he's a genius? The Federation has endless talents in our academy. Do we really need to rely on this Wang Zan? He's just a cheap rat from the slums. Dying in a sewer is his true destiny. Jing State's sewer system was exceptionally developed, buried deep underground due to the rise and prosperity of martial arts. Never mind one body, even if tens of thousands were left there to putrefy, no one would ever discover them. Some were preparing, some were observing, and some were waiting. Yet, just as Wang Zan stepped out of the Royal Martial Arts Academy, someone appeared by his side. His attitude was respectful, as if Wang Zan were truly a great figure from his own family. Yang Qi greets young Master Wang. A hardy young man with a wide grin revealing a mouthful of white teeth stood before Wang Zan, offering a greeting. Wang Zan paused slightly and glanced at him. He was rather short, not even reaching Wang Zan's shoulder, but his limbs were very thick and strong. He looked harmless, but the killing intent on his body was palpable. Evidently, he was also someone who had been on the battlefield. Wang Zan's expression shifted subtly. From the Yang family? Yes. My young master anticipated that young Master Wang would be intercepted today and might need a helper, so he specially sent me to lend you a hand. Wang Zan found Yang Qi's somewhat bookish words a bit jarring but still nodded. Wang Zan remarked meaningfully, Yang Zekeng said he'd invest in me. I thought it would be that uncle he by his side. I didn't expect him to send a young man. It looks like uncle he isn't his only support. Yang Zekeng probably didn't lie to me, so this Yang Qi must be from the Yang family, right? Those old foxes are certainly good at concealing their people. He didn't need to think to know that if Yang Qi were an overt member of the Yang family, the many students of the Royal Martial Arts Academy, who had made thorough preparations to kill him, would never have so generously allowed him to approach. Are they tired of living? Yang Qi scratched his head, looking somewhat embarrassed. This humble one is dull-witted and can't think of much. However, this humble one does have some strength. Young Master Wang, feel free to give your orders. Wang Zan ignored him further. His grudge with the Royal Martial Arts Academy was known to all, but his agreement with Edward didn't need explaining to anyone. Besides, Yang Qi's appearance was a good thing. If the other side didn't follow the rules, he could just let this guy, who looked like he swung a hammer, take over. If a martial general or grandmaster appears, you'll be responsible for them. Otherwise, you don't need to act. Yes. The reply was quite crisp. Wang Zan thought, he does have some backbone. Not just Yang Zekeng, but the Yang family as a whole. Crash. A figure suddenly flew out from Wang Zan's fist, continuously vomiting crimson blood. His face turned deathly pale, the qi in his body dissipated, and he could only look with hatred and misery at Wang Zan's still proudly upright back. You've crippled my essence energy. Low-level warriors didn't have Wang Zan's good fortune. To be able to develop abundant essence energy was already a great blessing for them, let alone mental energy. It could be said that Wang Zan had cut off his martial arts path, directly sending him to his death. But what did this have to do with Wang Zan? Anyway, no one had died at his hands. Thus, Wang Zan slightly raised an eyebrow and said indifferently, "Trash like you had best not waste the Federation's resources any longer. Otherwise, I'll kill everyone I see." Wang Zan had encountered many Federation geniuses, as well as ordinary warriors. Geniuses like Yuan Mengru, Lin Xiaoyan, Song Dongming, and Huang Pufeng, ordinary ones like Sun Kelin and other superhuman individuals. All of them held firm beliefs, even if they entered the battlefield now, they would be first-class warriors. But these people before me? They're just fishing for fame and wasting the Federation's food. Do they even realize that everything the Federation has was bought with the blood and sweat of those who came before? Yang Qi followed closely behind Wang Zan, not too far, not too near, just right to step in. A single stride away. He conscientiously fulfilled his role as Wang Zan's bodyguard, only a hint of peculiarity flashed in his eyes. 3 level 9 warriors and 4 level 1 or 2 martial masters couldn't even block one of his punches? It seems he has some ability. But how could he know Wang Zan's helplessness? Wang Zan paused, looked up at the round moon, and sighed. Sigh, I want to kill people. If I can't kill, my realm stagnates, and my extreme attribute points have nowhere to come from. The ancient treaty from the Federal Martial Arts Academy has hit a bottleneck now, its usefulness isn't that great. It's hard. When can I truly reach Martial General, or Grandmaster? He craved power, but these people from the Royal Martial Arts Academy were truly too hidebound, lacking any will of their own. Edward said only martial masters could be sent, so they only send martial masters. Utterly foolish. If it were me, and I had the ability, even if it were a Grandmaster, as long as I could recoup my investment, I'd do it. Thinking of this, his brow furrowed slightly. He then shouted loudly, his voice lingering in the air. Tonight, I have already crippled 4 martial masters and 3 warriors. Are you out of people? I advise you, if you don't want to bring ruin upon yourselves, don't send any more of these people to their deaths. Otherwise, I will definitely make you lie in bed, able only to wait for death. Now, send a few high-level martial masters to liven things up for me. If you have martial generals, it's best to send them out too. Grandmasters would be even better. I have someone by my side who is invincible among grandmasters of the same rank. You all better not send more people to die. Behind Wang Zan, Yang Qi's face turned bitter, and his heart tightened. Damn it, this kid is not quite like what young Master Yang said. What grandmasterly demeanor. He is clearly a shameless little hooligan. Bang. Outrageous. A cheap kind from the slums dares to be so arrogant. From the hidden corners of buildings all around, countless pairs of eyes were staring at Wang Zan, their faces twitching. Wang Zan was clearly issuing a challenge. He was just short of pointing at their noses and saying the Royal Martial Arts Academy had no one left, allowing him to act so ferociously. But the Dean had already given instructions. In today's battle, those at the Martial Master realm, regardless of their strength, could make a move, but those above Martial General could not. Who would have thought this kid, Wang Zan, regardless of your realm, if you were a warrior, it was one punch. If a Martial Master, then 2 or 3 punches, it barely took any effort. And he struck viciously. Each time he attacked, he was determined to cut off the attacker's martial arts path. I'll go test him. Just then, a gloomy man with somewhat messy hair walked out. A ferocious scar on his handsome face made him look somewhat bloodthirsty. The others were all somewhat apprehensive but quickly nodded. Good. You go test him. Use whatever resources you need. Since the Tang family is stepping forward, they will bear the burden for us. This was a level 4 martial master, a character who had survived the Star War battlefield. Although it was only the peripheral zone, who didn't know that just being able to survive on the Star War battlefield was an ability in itself. But after he left this place, a hint of incongruous ruthlessness flashed in the eyes of a gentle-looking young man. Wang Zan had previously killed a grandmaster. Although he no longer has that capital now, to prevent a starved camel from being bigger than a horse, you go find the Tang family immediately. Tell them to get me someone who dares to fight to the death. At least a martial general. In fact, it wasn't really their fault that Wang Zan had swept through everything. Although the Royal Martial Arts Academy was one of the Federation's 4 great institutions, the ones currently remaining at the Academy were at most at the Martial Master realm. Moreover, many of them hadn't been to the Star War battlefield, only cultivating in seclusion. Some were afraid of death. Now that Wang Zan's momentum was at its peak, who would dare to easily provoke him? Let that kid Boatcow go and test him. A level 4 martial master should be able to probe Wang Zan's true quality. Once it was confirmed, they would immediately attack like crazed, hungry wolves. But at Jin Palace, Edward looked at the distant scenery with a somber face. The aura of the Royal Martial Arts Academy was there, as was the momentum emanating from Wang Zan. At this moment, the mentor who had previously received Wang Zan, as well as 7 or 8 other figures who currently held authority in the Royal Martial Arts Academy, were all present. Edward said, somewhat tiredly, the Royal Martial Arts Academy is truly becoming worse with each passing year. Aside from arrogance and domineering behavior, there is only endless scheming. They don't even have the determination for a fight to the death. Is this also your contribution? When had the Royal Martial Arts Academy ever degenerated to this state? Chapter 159, If you don't die in one stroke, I lose in the office. Even the high and mighty can feel the chill of being at the top. Edward seemed tired. As a martial emperor, a mere sneeze from him could send Wang Zan to his death. Yet now, he appeared to be lacking his former aura. The people behind him looked at each other in silence. The atmosphere was heavy, and no one dared to speak. Could it be that the decline of the Martial Arts Academy is their fault? Even if William and Ally hadn't ranked on the Federation's genius list, they were still the royal family's privately nurtured top talents. Who could have expected them to lose to Wang Zan? Besides, they aren't the ones in charge of the Royal Martial Arts Academy now. Edward turned around, looking at the resentment and fear on everyone's faces, yet there wasn't a shred of shame. This sight made his back sag slightly, and a newfound understanding dawned on him as his gaze swept across the walls, where the honors of the Royal Martial Arts Academy hung. Honor, if it fell into the hands of any talented individual after being obtained, would mean nothing. Hey! Following Edward's indifferent, faint chuckle, an unassuming man, one who might be easily overlooked in a crowd, finally stood up. Dean, Li Shiji's death isn't necessarily a bad thing. At least, the Royal Martial Arts Academy hasn't seen any changes for a long time. We've been handling matters for the Federation, but if we don't change, we're as good as dead. As soon as these words were spoken, all eyes were fixed on his face, filled with contempt, disdain, and disgust. Apart from Edward and the mentor who had guided Wang Zan today, almost everyone was thinking the same thing. Who the hell do you think you are? We've at least made contributions to the Federation. And you? You've spent your whole life guarding a library, utterly useless. Now you've learned to suck up? Bo Tao, a 4th-year student of the Royal Martial Arts Academy, level 4 warrior, capable of breaking the limit by 20%, dares to fight. Bo Tao, a fierce scar on his face, appeared before Wang Zan, holding a big saber. His aura, unlike Wang Zan's air of invincibility, was steeped in a strong scent of blood. He's killed people, and not just a few. Wang Zan thought, his eyes narrowing slightly. A level 4 warrior. This is an opportunity to test my own strength limits. Currently, with his 3,500 basic attribute points and 70 extreme attribute points, his true strength was comparable to a low-rank martial master. If things went well, he could even push to the limit of a level 9 warrior and break through to the martial master realm. A level 4 warrior should be enough for me to gain quite a bit. A pity, a pity. Come on. Kill. As soon as Wang Zan spoke, a blade of light, devoid of any brilliance and even appearing somewhat dim, suddenly slashed out from Bo Tao. Nevertheless, Wang Zan sensed a hint of threat from it. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. With a quick sidestep, he dodged Bo Tao's attack. Boom. A bluestone paving slab on the ground where he had stood shattered completely, exposing the earth beneath. Interesting. Clang. With a sharp sound, the lend blade on Wang Zan's back was unsheathed. He currently lacked the martial general level defensive power he possessed when he had consumed the blood essence pill, which had previously allowed him to face enemies with ease. Therefore, seeing Bo Tao clearly aiming to eliminate him completely, pressing his advantage relentlessly even after his initial strike missed, Wang Zan naturally wouldn't be polite. When it was time to draw his blade, he would. Of course, he wouldn't need to use the fatal one slash. Clang. 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 The continuous, dense sounds of metal clashing echoed through the street, like someone hammering iron late at night, grating on the nerves. Wang Zan and Bo Tao moved and shifted, yet they both remained within a small, confined area, never stepping out of bounds. They seemed to be fighting to the death, yet they tacitly adhered to the rules of an arena. It was as if they were on a dueling platform, yet they fought with the determination of a battle to the death, unwilling to retreat. Clang. Wang Zan's movements were grand and sweeping. Though he used no specific battle tactics, his technique seemed perfectly natural. A strike descended from above, crashing onto Bo Tao's big saber, forcing his body to sink under the pressure. Bo Tao roared, straightening up and directly parrying Wang Zan's lend blade. He aimed to close the distance and attack Wang Zan's weak points in close combat. Wang Zan chuckled. Close combat? Good. I've been waiting for you. Unexpectedly, Wang Zan had been waiting for this moment. His fatal one slash wasn't his own skill but originated from Wang Yidao's saber technique. Consequently, his own saber technique also contained elements of Wang Yidao's style. However, his fist technique was different. It incorporated knowledge from numerous real and fake ancient books spread throughout the mortal world, the military department's standard military killing fist, and, most substantially, the 8 Extremes fist from Grandmaster Shi Jingxun. This accumulation had led him to create a hybrid technique, the 8 Extremes fist. Military killing fist variation. In other words, close combat was Wang Zan's true forte. Even if these were skills learned from others, they were at least skills he was intimately familiar with. Clang. Essence energy surged within Wang Zan's body. With immense power, he directly knocked Bo Tao's big saber from his grasp, allowing Bo Tao to close in. Then, Wang Zan tossed the Lin blade to Yang Qi, who stood behind him, and took a shallow breath. Military style. Killing fist. His fists were like sabers, like swords. One punch followed another, none missed their mark, each one beating down on Bo Tao as if he were trash. Bo Tao's heart suddenly tightened as Wang Zan landed 4 or 5 punches on him, his body emitting a series of dull thuds. This is bad. This kid's fist technique is even more refined and ferocious than those of the warriors. He had witnessed the Star War battlefield. Although he knew his own limitations, that on such a battlefield, he was merely a minor character. He was still someone few could rival. Moreover, the Wang Zan before him was clearly just a student. Where did he acquire such terrifying killing intent, almost enough to coalesce the true intent of the military killing fist? Ha ha ha, your resilience is pretty good. But are you planning to just keep taking it? If you don't counterattack soon, I can't guarantee I'll be able to hold back. Wang Zan laughed heartily, his arrogance undiminished. Bow my head? Like hell. I, lazy, never bow my head. Since you lot have pushed me to this point but don't dare to kill me, then let your students bow their heads for you. After enduring dozens of punches and continuously defending, Bo Tao finally managed to regulate his breathing. He roared defiantly, "Kid, don't get cocky just because you're winning. Compared to the Royal Martial Arts Academy, you're nothing. Military killing fist? You're not the only one who knows it. Fight." Boom. 2 powerful fists collided abruptly. But before Bo Tao could react, Wang Zan let out a cold sneer. "If I say you're trash, you're trash. On the battlefield, who has time for your nonsense? The Royal Martial Arts Academy. Apart from the older generation, none of the younger ones are worth a damn. Military style. Killing fist." Little did Bo Tao know, Wang Zan had been waiting for precisely this moment. Combat wasn't some petty squabble born of jealousy. This kid, Bo Tao, still thought in terms of soldier versus soldier, general versus general. He failed to realize that Wang Zan's previous punches had been a clear buildup of power. If Bo Tao insisted on confronting him head-on without trying a different approach, he could only follow behind and eat dust. With this dynamic in play, Wang Zan's punches became even more fierce, their force instantly doubling as they rained down on Bo Tao, pushing him back nearly 10 steps. Bo Tao, his face a mask of astonishment, stared at Wang Zan, his gaze frozen in disbelief. "How is this possible? You still have strength to spare?" Wang Zan replied coldly, "That's because you're naive." Bo Tao was defeated. However, Wang Zan didn't cripple his essence energy. After all, Bo Tao was someone who had been on a battlefield, and to Wang Zan, his experience was somewhat useful. With a complex expression, Bo Tao watched Wang Zan's departing figure. Then, without a word, he picked up his big saber and turned to leave, not even bothering to say goodbye to his fellow students. He could see it clearly, he didn't even register in Wang Zan's eyes. And what made him feel even more humiliated were Wang Zan's words to him, "Even if you are losers qualified to die on the battlefield." Enough said. If there's a suicide squad in the future, I'd very much like to see you in it. By then, however, you might have to pay me some hazard pay. He was only qualified to join a suicide squad. Bo Tao seethed with anger but was powerless. He could only turn and walk away, trying to preserve what little dignity he had left. But one day, he would definitely make Wang Zan regret this. The street was eerily quiet on both sides. Apart from the dim yellow streetlights and the shadowy buildings beneath them, it was deserted. Only a man and a woman still stood blocking Wang Zan's path. The woman glared venomously at Wang Zan, her voice shrill as she cried, "You will definitely die here today." Wang Zan glanced at her, then at the marshal general beside her. A chilling smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. "Very good. I was wondering if you wouldn't show up. It seems the Royal Martial Arts Academy is truly out of people, sending only a woman to confront me." With that, he looked towards some of the buildings on either side, as if he could see through to the people hidden in the darkness, his arrogance reaching an extreme. Tang Mingzong of the Tang family, a level 5 martial general, having broken through the limit by 18%. I request young Master Wang's guidance. The man beside the woman, Tang Mingzong, stepped forward. He appeared ordinary, but his eyes were bright, and his hands were rough with thick calluses. Fine. Wang Zan replied, the limb blade once again unsheathed. Facing a martial general, and one not from the Royal Martial Arts Academy at that, he couldn't be blamed for being ruthless. After this slash, the Royal Martial Arts Academy would surely no longer be an obstacle to his return to the arena. As for whether Tang Mingzong survived, that wouldn't be Wang Zan's fault. I will use only one slash. If it doesn't kill you, I'll lose. Wang Zan stated indifferently. Tang Mingzong's heart tightened. His essence energy instantly surged throughout his body as he prepared himself, on high alert. Miss, please step back. I will try to take his slash. If I don't succeed, you must leave immediately. He could already feel that Wang Zan's impending slash was not to be underestimated. He also understood the meaning behind Wang Zan's words. If Wang Zan lost, he would be at their mercy. If Tang Mingzong lost, he couldn't blame Wang Zan for any subsequent retaliation. He just didn't know how far this Federation hero, so famous online, had truly progressed. At that moment, the woman hastily retreated. Tang Mingzong stood ready, bracing himself. Yang Shi watched with a curious glint in his eyes. In the surroundings, the Royal Martial Arts Academy students hidden in the darkness, observing the fight, all felt a shiver run down their spines. They, too, had heard about that night on the Jing State battlefield. Wang Zan had killed 2 men with 2 slashes, both of whom had already become grandmasters. Chapter 160, Redemption? Wang Zan was renowned and powerful. He had not only slain 13 martial generals on the Oceania battlefield but had also subsequently beheaded 3 grandmasters on the Jing State battlefield. Such an illustrious reputation, even if not widely publicized, was common knowledge among the upper echelons of the Federation. Therefore, upon seeing Wang Zan's limb blade unsheathed, Tang Mingzong immediately took a deep breath. A multitude of blue radiances, indicative of mental energy, erupted from his body. A robust outpouring of essence energy also gushed forth, the two merging to form an armor of blue light before him. Humphrey! Come! The enemy before him was formidable, a person's reputation, like a tree's shadow, naturally exerted pressure. How could Tang Mingzong not feel it? He stomped a foot on the ground and shot forward, his aura fierce. Wang Zan could even see the resolute determination in his eyes. It seemed Tang Mingzong was intent on crushing him with sheer power. Many knew about Wang Zan's signature blade skill. They believed that if they could survive his initial burst or prevent him from accumulating power, Wang Zan, with his low realm, would be useless. As for that mad woman, she had already fled far from Tang Mingzong the moment he engaged, terrified of being captured if she remained near Wang Zan. This madman truly shows no mercy to women. If provoked, he'd even kill. The scar on my face hasn't faded even now, the mark still clearly visible. This is Wang Zan's ruthlessness. She sneered, you lowlife who hit swimmen, I can't wait to see how you die. Wang Zan paid her no mind, nor did he acknowledge the gazes of those lurking in the shadows behind him. He was a warrior, his strength comparable to a martial master, yet his opponent was a martial general. Technically, without the blood essence pill, Wang Zan shouldn't possess the ability to fight across realms. However, they seem to have forgotten, he was a genius. Fighting across realms? That was merely a stumbling block, easily kicked aside. Tang Shi remained impassive behind him, and Wang Zan ignored him as well. But the limb blade was unsheathed, and how could it not taste blood? Thus, in the instant Tang Mingzong rapidly closed in, the essence energy within Wang Zan's body roiled violently, and his mental energy poured out. Like birds flocking to their nests, it swiftly surged into the limb blade. This time, there was none of the previous grandeur or dazzling brilliance. Instead, there was a quality of natural perfection, an ease as if it were second nature. With a seemingly casual chop, Wang Zan's face turned pale, and his close-fitting clothes seemed to hang looser. Undoubtedly, the fatal one slash had once again drained him. Yet, he showed no fear. A fierce glint flashed across his face, his eyes icy, as he let out a sudden roar. Die. In that instant, it was as if a cold glint flashed, or perhaps a fierce wind howled, chilling the deep night. But only Tang Mingzong could clearly feel the biting cold of Wang Zan's absolute determination to kill and his overwhelming killing intent. This aura almost made him feel inferior, but he was a martial general, after all. He reacted instantly, his expression hardening as his fists struck out with indomitable power. Die. Just as his fist was about to smash into the limb blade, Wang Zan lightly lifted his blade. This fatal one slash was a feint. Then, reflected in Tang Mingzong's eyes, wide with a terror that could shatter his very being, another slash appeared, as casual as chopping wood or felling a tree. It landed squarely on his head. Yet Wang Zan had only shifted slightly, and Tang Mingzong hadn't even touched the hem of his robes. No. A furious roar sounded, followed by a low groan. Clang. The Lin blade met no resistance. Squelch. Strength plus 30, agility plus 30, physique plus 30. Tang Mingzong, dead. The entire scene fell into stillness. Who could believe that Wang Zan, a warrior realm cultivator without his blood essence skill or other tricks, could kill Tang Mingzong so cleanly? That single strike had descended from Tang Mingzong's shoulder, diagonally bisecting his body. His martial general level defense, his strong bone structure. All were rendered insignificant under Wang Zan's blade, which cut through him as if through mud. You! How could you still have such a slash? Tang Mingzong's gaze was unfocused. He too was a true warrior, one who had fought on battlefields. He dared to kill, dared to fight, dared to gamble, and dared to battle to the death. A flicker of guilt crossed Wang Zan's eyes. If not for those despicable clan members and family scions, he might not have killed such a warrior. His reactions were decisive, and he advanced bravely. His only lack was his own foundation. It seemed he was not a core member of the Tang family. Wang Zan's complexion gradually returned to normal. His clothes, which had momentarily sagged, recovered within a few breaths, looking no different than before. He said in a low voice, "On the battlefield, what matters is not just overwhelming strength and realm, but even more so, the control over one's power. And my control is comparable to a grandmaster's. Yes, comparable to a grandmaster. Not Wang Zan's own grandmaster level control, but Wang Yidao's. The blade intent Wang Yidao had left in the wilderness had not only passed on the essence of the Fatal One slash to him but had also imparted a profound understanding of power control. This was a true fortuitous encounter for humanity. Ah! In the distance, the madwoman shrieked, startled. She watched wide-eyed as her cousin uncle died at Wang Zan's hands, slashed diagonally from his left shoulder to his right hip, splitting him into two gory halves. She had never witnessed such a scene. Her face turned deathly pale, her voice became shrill, her eyes scattered with terror, and she stumbled backward. She was wrong. She shouldn't have come. This was a demon, a devil himself. Damn it. He's gotten stronger. Although he's lost his external aid, he has now converted his control over power into his own foundation. If our senior brothers weren't absent from the martial arts academy, and if those at martial master realm and above weren't prohibited from intervening, how could our Royal Martial Arts Academy allow him to run rampant here like this? We can't kill him anymore. What now? Should we call upon the other major families to act? I refuse to believe that among them, no one wants Wang Zan dead. Especially the original organization. Even if it has vanished from the surface, who doesn't know that a starved camel is still bigger than a horse? Moreover, that was merely a strategic withdrawal. There's no time. Just watch. Don't be hasty, we still have a chance. We must find a way to break his Fatal One slash. Otherwise, even if we are a realm higher than him, going up against him is just seeking death. It had to be said, Wang Zan's Fatal One slash was almost invincible among his peers. It just so happened to be inherited from his father. Even if you say he's unfairly advantaged, obtaining it was a testament to his own skill. In secret, countless conspiracies and schemes were brewing. But Wang Zan merely glanced at Tang Mingzong, whose eyes were now closed in death, and then said directly to Tang Chi behind him, "Follow me." He didn't intend to let the madwoman go. If there was a first time, there could be a second. Who knew if next time she would bring a grandmaster? He didn't fear martial generals, but a grandmaster was enough to disrupt many of his plans and expose the few secrets he had painstakingly hidden from everyone. However, seeing Wang Zan actually tailing the madwoman, the students from the Royal Martial Arts Academy, though inwardly seething with rage, dared not show themselves easily. Finally, one of them spoke again. "Is he going to kill Tang Yui? What do we do then? Should we intervene?" "Tang Yui, she. Wait. I asked our mentor. He wouldn't dare kill Tang Yui. Don't forget, even if Tang Yui lacks talent, she is still a member of our Royal Martial Arts Academy." If Wang Zan had heard this, who knows what he would have thought. But Wang Zan paid them no heed, instead following Tang Yui at an unhurried pace, chuckling softly. "Where are you going? Weren't you going to kill me?" Thud. Tang Yui stumbled and fell. Her hands seemed scraped raw, and she appeared to have forgotten her level 5 strength. Her face was pale with terror as she cried out, "No, don't kill me. You can't kill me. I'm a daughter of the Tang family, a daughter of the Jing State Tang family. If you kill me, you'll die, you'll definitely die." She pleaded, and a strange look flashed across Tang Chi's face behind her. The Tang family? That's a fairly powerful family, with at least one martial emperor realm ancestor. However, from the fact she only summoned a martial general level expert, He inferred Tang Yui wasn't highly favored in the Tang family. It would be a different story if they send a grandmaster or someone stronger for her. Young master, the Tang family. Although their overall strength is average, they seem to have an ancestor who is a martial emperor. He explained, feeling it necessary to inform Wang Zan. Wang Zan squatted beside Tang Yui with a hint of a smile, gently stroking her hair with his right hand. Then, he glanced expressionlessly at Tang Chi, ignoring him. He spoke softly to Tang Yui, "Why are you so afraid of me? I don't kill people easily. Be good. Do you have money? Use it to ransom yourself, and I might let you live." Tang Yui's terrified face froze for a moment, then she said hastily, I do. How much money do you want? As long as you let me go, I'll give you any amount." "Any amount?" Wang Zan chuckled. It seems this woman's status isn't low after all. As he was thinking, a figure abruptly appeared behind Tang Chi, poised to strike. Fortunately, Wang Zan's sharp, low shout quickly alerted Tang Chi. "Behind you. Stop him." Though Tang Chi appeared simple and honest, his mind was sharp. Without turning, he jabbed an elbow toward the figure behind him, aiming for their waist. The assailant was forced back a step. Then, Wang Zan swiftly grabbed Tang Yui's throat, hoisting her up and causing her to cough. "Stop." Wang Zan called out loudly, slowly turning his gaze to the newcomer. It turned out to be a grandmaster. He was dressed in black, his figure elusive, reminding Wang Zan of some unpleasant memories. The newcomer was about to counterattack, aiming a fist at Tang Chi's head, but at Wang Zan's loud command, Tang Chi immediately retreated to stand before Wang Zan. "Quite skilled, aren't you? Planning to use yourself as bait to lure me out?" Wang Zan coldly watched Tang Yui, who was struggling in his grasp, gasping for breath. Tang Yui, looking frenzied, continuously tried to claw at Wang Zan, stuttering, Kill them. Kill them." The chilling intent emanating from her, even while helpless in Wang Zan's grasp, was enough to make one's heart turn cold. This mad woman. Chapter 161, 10 billion. The man glanced at Tang Yui, held in Wang Zan's hand, then at Yang Chi, who had a hint of a smile on his honest face and had moved back to Wang Zan's side, and helplessly shook his head. "I wasn't expecting you to have a Dao protector at the Grandmaster realm by your side. Let me guess. He's from a certain family in Jing State, right? They are really putting their money where their mouth is. Aren't they afraid of suffering losses?" Wang Zan gave a slight laugh, and with a smack, slapped Tang Yui across the face, his eyes still sparkling brightly, completely disregarding the Grandmaster. "Want to kill me? Your status must be quite decent. Not particularly high, but definitely not low either. Excellent. The higher your status, the higher your ransom." Tang Yui's face filled with hatred, and she was about to spit on Wang Zan's face. "This cheap kind actually dared to hit me. Not only did he hit me, but he also slapped me several times in quick succession, and now he wants to ransom me for money. This is absolutely ridiculous. I, Tang Yui, will never let this go so easily. I will fight Wang Zan to the death." Little did she know what kind of person Wang Zan was. Seeing that she had stopped talking, but her mouth was slightly moving, he immediately understood her intentions. He grinned. "Impressive, you have guts." Tang Yui's heart skipped a beat, wondering why this cheap kind was smiling at her. The Grandmaster's expression tightened, and he was about to intervene when Tang Chi took a step forward, firmly blocking Wang Zan. Thud. Wang Zan threw Tang Yui back onto the ground, restraining her shoulder with one hand while swiftly striking her stomach with the other. PFFT. Cough, cough, cough. Wang Zan's punch, despite not being particularly sophisticated, still followed the method of the military killing fist. The principle was to target the most vulnerable areas. Moreover, Wang Zan's punch was not just about inflicting physical pain on Tang Yui, it also disrupted the essence meridian in her body. "Stop!" The newcomer roared, lashing out with a kick aimed at Tang Chi's stomach, intending to send him flying. However, Tang Chi neither dodged nor retreated. A grin spread across his lips as he sank his feet, rooting them to the ground. His two thick arms, like intertwined coiling dragons, crossed and then slammed downwards with immense force. Thud. A hole nearly 20 centimeters deep appeared on the ground. Tang Chi didn't move an inch, while the newcomer staggered backward a few steps, his face darkening. Damn it. A high-level Grandmaster. He was more than just a high-level Grandmaster. Although Tang Chi hadn't seemed to notice his arrival, his reactions, speed, and strength were all perfectly balanced at their peak. His most prominent trait was stability. As stable as a boulder, as steadfast as the earth itself. Tang Chi flashed his white teeth and said with a smile, "With me here, you probably won't get past. People like you should either stay hidden behind the scenes and never show yourselves, or, if you do come out, You wouldn't even be a match for low-level Grandmaster. The newcomer's gaze turned grim. Meanwhile, Wang Zan landed several more punches on Tang Yui's stomach, beating her until she was like a limp dog. She lost control of her bodily functions and then fainted. Glancing with disgust at the woman collapsed on the ground, Wang Zan shot a cold glare at this Grandmaster. Tang Xi's words had sparked a suspicion in him. Moreover, there were too many familiar aspects about this Grandmaster. He wasn't much different from those genetically modified losers from the original organization. However, Wang Zan kept a poker face. It wasn't the time for reckoning. He himself was in a precarious situation, barely able to protect himself. The original organization had suffered a major loss at his hands last time and had subsequently shifted from overt to covert operations. He couldn't risk tipping them off. You are a member of the Tang family, right? Can you make decisions on her behalf? Yes. The Grandmaster remained silent, his gaze fixed on Wang Zan with a murderous glint. This kid has gone too far. Wang Zan, however, paid him no mind, instead pointing at Tang Yui on the ground and saying, "To get her back, bring out 10 billion. If you're short even 1 cent, you can just let her die here." What did you say? The newcomer was nearly driven mad. A worthless martial artist like Wang Zan dares to demand 10 billion for her. Does he even know how much 10 billion is worth, or how many resources it could buy? If spent on me, it would be more than enough to train several grandmasters, to say the least. Wang Zan didn't bother to answer, merely looked at him deeply. Is she really not worth that much? The newcomer's heart trembled. Does Wang Zan actually know something? But he wasn't ready to give up. 10 billion is too much. The most the Tang family can offer is 1 billion. Otherwise, if she dies, she dies. Hey! Wang Zan simply turned around and left, only leaving an instruction for Yang Qi. Take her away. If she's not worth 1 billion, then let her earn a few million for me first. The red light district is a good place for steady, long-term income. Also, don't think I don't dare to kill you. Edward has given me strict orders. If anyone dares to provoke me again, while I might not kill them, I'll make sure they suffer so much they'll wish they were dead immediately. Wang Zan paused briefly, his back to the numerous buildings behind him, and added a seemingly random remark. The Grandmaster's face immediately turned dark. The red light district? What kind of lousy place is that? Are they going to let Miss Tang become one of those fallen women? This cheap kind, Wang Zan, has gone too far. Or has he really found out something, which is why he dares to threaten me like this? Behind them, all the buildings fell into a hush. Tang Yui had fallen into Wang Zan's hands. He was demanding 10 billion from the Tang family, or he would sell her into prostitution. This kid is too ruthless. With this, never mind the Tang family, even the Royal Martial Arts Academy would lose all face, thoroughly trampled underfoot by Wang Zan. It seemed he truly wasn't afraid of death. Offending the Royal Martial Arts Academy wasn't enough for him. He wanted to offend them to the bitter end. Tang Yui, that loser. She's not capable enough to accomplish anything but more than capable of ruining things. I wonder what senior brother Li ever saw in her. Enough with the nonsense. If she's really sent to one of those lousy places, when our senior brothers return and find out, we'll be skinned alive, even if we aren't killed outright. What on earth is the dean thinking? Why hasn't he intervened yet? Is it really enough that she just doesn't die? If Wang Zan actually does this, it would be a fate worse than death for Tang Yui. And not just for Tang Yui, either. But what was the use of questioning it? Now, in the Royal Martial Arts Academy, with Li Shiji's departure, they could all clearly sense that some inexplicable changes had begun. The most obvious sign was that none of the usual protective mentors or senior brothers and sisters had appeared, not even Tang Yui's close friends. Above the Jihan Palace, Edward still maintained his usual aged appearance. Even after witnessing Wang Zan openly leave with Tang Yui, and after hearing him utter harsh words guaranteed to offend many, his expression remained unchanged. The mentors behind him had also stopped talking. Even the one who had declared that the Royal Martial Arts Academy was on the decline now wore a frosty expression. Wang Zan's actions were too outrageous. If they hadn't restrained their students, and themselves, how could they have allowed this kid to act so arrogantly within the Royal Martial Arts Academy? After watching for a while, Edward finally looked tired. You may all leave. That's all for today.